Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, or maybe even good night. We hope to have a good one, and we're glad that you're joining us for the final night of Season 1 of the Modern Streamers League. I'm Sean Seacrease alongside League founder, the Saint Doom, Michael Goldenberg. We've got the man known as Spider Space. Gabriel Maxson is with us tonight, and Kappolo 42, Andrea Biaggi, is here as well. Guys, this is going to be an absolutely outstanding night. It's as close as it could mathematically be, with Team Fire up just one match. You see those standings below us, and we'll decide the entire season series here this evening. Now, Andrea, you're going to play the first match out of the gate, so I'm going to save your commentary on this for last. Let's start with Spider Space. What are you looking forward to tonight as we decide this 20-week-long showdown with the last 5 matches?
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm kind of glad it's ending. It's like I can't stand the excitement. It's like 47, 48 every week. I mean, last week it was just as close. It's always like 1 point off. What's going to happen?
Well, after Monday night, we know you're still burning with excitement. Doom, what about you? 10-0, the only undefeated run through the league, and now you get to sit and see if your teammates can really cross the finish line, even though you've already set the standard so far.
How do you answer that without I'm very excited that we've had this league. It's been an absolute blast. It's been great getting to know and hanging out with every member, whether it's usually in chats and sometimes people on the show. It's been absolutely wonderful. But I am nervous right now knowing that we are down one match, because I know how good Team Fire is because I played against them all. Team Fire being 48, Team Ice being 47. This is gonna be so close. This is gonna be nerve-wracking till the very end.
Andrea Biaggi, you'll see him play in just a moment under the name Kappolo 42. Andrea, when you gather an elite group of modern-focused streamers, for the most part, that's what the Modern Streamers League has been. Has it lived up to your expectations as an accomplished player, competition-wise? You know, you had the recent top 16 finish at the Legacy GP. You're an extremely accomplished player. Did you think that this gave you the challenge that you were in for when you first said, yeah, let's be part of this Modern Streamers League?
To be honest, I felt like a bit overwhelmed, like seeing all the names in the league, and it's like I didn't even know why I got called in this league. All amazing players, but I learned a lot from everyone, and also like discussing with my opponents about lines that in the game. Also, I remember I had a long discussion about Spider Space of a line that I took that ended me being dead when we played a singleton. It was really interesting, a really good learning experience, chatting with everyone. My team and the opposing team was great.
We're about to see you pilot Urza's Paradox against KoDiamonds and Jund. Now, KoDiamonds, Kevin Wang, he was the analyst with me on Monday night. He's been extremely excited about Jund. What do you think your matchup is going into this? Give us just a little preview before we get to round 1.
I feel like the matchup, it's early game in favor of Jund, late game in favor of me. So it's kind of, for me, survival until probably turn 8 or 9, and then the deck can go off. So it really depends all on that.
This is it, the final night of Season 1 of the Modern Streamers League. This league couldn't happen without our supporters, Card Kingdom, and of course, Card Hoarder. The next time you need tech to leverage your latest modern invention, whether you're playing online, Card Hoarder's got you covered, or in person, Card Kingdom can get you your cardboard at the best price and make sure it arrives in time. Card Hoarder and Card Kingdom, our sponsors here on the Modern Streamers League. Coming up, we'll get the forecast of doom. We'll get Andrea's thoughts on his own matchup before his showdown with KoDiamonds to kick us off here tonight. This is the Modern Streamers League.
Of my matchup, me against KoDiamonds, Urza, Paradox against Jund. Jund has the advantage on early game with the early disruption, pressure with Tarmogoyf. Red and 6 I don't think is that good for them, so they can probably set it out after board, but Bloodbred Elf bolts are really strong pressure, and I need to survive. My main tool to survive in the main board is engineered explosives, especially on 2, getting rid of the guys is really important. As I said, like early game is better for John because of all the disruption, but they cannot stop top decks. The discard spells cannot stop top decks. A late game Urza with like a few artifacts out can start the chain and get Paradox Engine and go off. So I need to survive until late game. After board, things get interesting. KoDiamonds as Collector Roof and Plague Engineer as their best cards against me. And also Ancient Grudge and Veraska can be pretty good. This version of Urza Paradox is actually pretty good against Hate, but it's better to play not against the Hate. So on my side, I'm probably going to bring in Fatal Pushes to stop the Collector Roof and Plague Engineer with Revolt. Maybe bring in some Collective Brutality, some Pitying Needle. And the Planeswalkers can play a big role too. Teferi can get a lot of time bouncing a Goyf, and Tezzeret is a threat that it's really hard for John to answer, and it's really fast to kill if you have few artifacts out on the board. I predict if the games go short, KoDiamonds will win, but if I can survive, I will win. Let's see how it goes.
This is our first round matchup of the night. It's going to be Kappolo 42, Andre Biaggi. He just gave us the inside look at his very own forecast of doom at his Urza's Paradox deck, taking on KoDiamonds and Jun. Spider Space joins me. Spider, this is an interesting matchup tonight. We'll get to the later round matchups in just a bit, but as this one starts to play out, do you agree with Andrea's analysis, or do you think maybe Jun might be a little favored in this matchup?
I think Andrea is extremely humble. We saw it right away with him saying that, oh, I don't know why they chose me and all the matchups, I can kind of get there in the late game. Like, I think he's more than a little favored here.
We'll see how it plays out. We'll be watching from Team Ice's vantage point again this week. You see KoDiamond starting with the turn 1 Thoughtseize. Always a potent play, but Andrea pointed out something that I've been frustrated by over the years, and that's you cannot, in fact, Thoughtseize the top of your opponent's. Sometimes you're just dead to that, no matter what happens. As you look at this starting setup, what's interesting to you? We see double EE and Everflowing Chalice.
This hand is so strange to me. Like, I look at that hand, I'm like, well, what does this actually even do? Obviously, the EE can be used to interact, but Kappolo is looking to just bounce them with paradoxical outcome and use it to pump Urza and make tokens. It does all the things.
Yeah, it gives him another 0 drop that he can use when he's looking to stack up storm counts or things along that line. We'll see how it plays out. And KoDiamond's already giving off some very unsettled body language as we watch him on the left side of the screen this week.
Indeed.
Where does it go from here?
I'm actually curious about that myself. So he's going to cast the Inquisition, it looks like, but I don't like that, actually. If I'm him, I think it's really important to get down pressure. Like, I understand that he's concerned that, his opponent's just going to crack the EE on 2, but now his opponent gets a sort of pseudo-scry with Mishra's Bauble and the fetch, and then another redraw. So there's a good chance that there's a good card in his hand after this that you now can't take, and you won't have pressure.
This isn't a matchup where I see Renin 6 being at its absolute apex of power. So the Tarmogoyf for pressure, maybe what we would have preferred to see from KoDiamonds, but he knows where he wants to go in this matchup and where he thinks he can apply pressure to Andre Biaggi. You see him playing as Kappolo 42. He's on the Urza's Paradox deck. Urza's been an interesting card since it had arrived in Modern Horizons. Is it really the standard bearer of the format now as far as power level goes? We've certainly heard that expressed by a number of players.
Urza is a very, very powerful card. I can't tell you the amount of times I've lost to that card on a whole different variety of decks. Actually, the chat kind of makes a good point that the EE just sits there, and I'm thinking of Renin 6 as a threat, but in actuality, it's pretty mopey against Andrea, so maybe the Inquisition's better than I'm giving it credit for.
Well, and Andrea not really trying to put together one key artifact piece. So I have to wonder how much use KoDiamonds is going to get out of that K command. K command is certainly, if the format allows you to dispense with 3 mana instants, a powerful option. But when there's no linchpin artifact to really go after in this build, it would seem it limits what I think the impact of K command might be in this matchup.
It's certainly not as insane as it could be, but I think just getting value isn't a bad thing. Like blowing up your artifact, you discard a card, still totally fine.
Your basic 2-for-1ing, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A little bit of an awkward turn here for KoDiamonds, as he's got a 2 and a 3 in his hand with 4 mana. No way to double spell this turn, so instead it'll be the Tarmogoyf cracking in. Just a 3/4 Tarmogoyf right now, and looks like Ren and 6 going to get to work for KoDiamonds as he'll get fetch land back. Or is that's the cycle land, the Horizon land?
That's value.
Now that every color pairing has access to that Horizon Canopy style effect, it certainly made Ren and 6 better than if you had to shoehorn it just into a green-red or a Naya build, with Canopy being the only version of that available.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So here's a great target for a Goligan's command.
Paradox Engine. KoDiamonds highlighting already. That's got to be high on his list of targets for this deck. Now, does Paradox Engine in and of itself allow the deck to go nearly infinite, or is this a situation where Kappolo 42 is looking for other pieces to this puzzle?
He still wants other pieces, but Paradox Engine can definitely let him go off and get all the value he would need just by untapping everything. He kind of gets to turn Magic into a game of solitaire if left alone.
KoDiamonds going to try for that K command right now. This is going to be one of our grindier matchups of the night, most likely. Jund, known for its ability to leverage 2-for-1s and grind and take out just about any target in the game with that combination of colors. And paradoxical engine decks, this Urza's Paradox, it feels very comfortable going long. We heard Andreas say it in the pre-match breakdown. The longer the game goes, the more advantaged he feels. So I don't think he's going to be the one in a rush to resolve a game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm pulling up Kappolo's list right now just so I can try to piece together what he wants to draw here, because as not the biggest combo player in the world, I'm kind of just like, oh god, there's so much value.
Well, that Tarmogoyf turning into a 5/6 is certainly a big edge right now for KoDiamonds, because it gives him some legitimate pressure. At a 3/4, it swung the turn before. Didn't feel like there was much pressure there. Now Urza, Lord High Artificer, coming down immediately, starting to make the value engine whir for Urza's Paradox.
This card always, it does so much.
Outcome. Pick up all of these and go back to work.
Now he gets to run out that, even if he drew nothing that was a 0-drop, he could run out that Chalice, tap the Chalice, start playing other artifacts. And that's exactly what we're seeing.
And KoDiamonds is sort of a prisoner of the moment right now. Not only is Jund not renowned for its wide variety of instant speed removal, sure, you could have Abrupt Decay, Fatal Push, Lightning Bolt, small things along that line, but it's bigger hitters, Maelstrom Pulse. Those things are sorcery speed. KoDiamonds is tapped out, and we're watching from his perspective, so we see that it's just a handful of lands right now for KoDiamonds.
That's interesting. I'm very curious why he would want to just run out a Chalice with no follow-up or no counters on it. It's
just a Chalice for 0. We'll ask him about that in our post-match.
I guess it's just for Ren and 6, so that Ren and 6 can't kill the construct.
Ren and 6, of course, able to ping 1 point anywhere.
That's a good draw.
Thoughtseize, backed up by the Scavenging Ooze that came off the top. The Thoughtseize, a result of that cycle land that is going to be, I have a feeling, redundant in this game for KoDiamonds. That's really at the heart of the engine for any Ren and 6 style deck.
Oh, absolutely.
Spider, you'd imagine he'd lead with the Thoughtseize here since he has a moment where Kappolo's tapped out.
I would have thought that just to decide if he would want to attack or not. I mean, presumably he's going to attack, but getting information is never a bad thing.
We see Kappolo 42 down to 6. This lone Tarmogoyf for KoDiamonds' Jund deck has been all of the threat so far in this game.
That
sees
hand.
Double Urza, Psy, and the artifacts we already knew about off the whir.
Yeah, that hand is...
Psy. Scavenging Ooze. Any green mana up to be had? No, he can't eat anything this turn. So KoDiamonds now, I think he's just going to have to watch as this turn unfolds. And plenty of chump blockers, I think, are going to start to come down for Kappolo. And I think that's going to be the hump that KoDiamonds has to get over. All of these little artifacts that are going to be able to be made by Kappolo, they can just get in front of Tarmogoyf, no trample. Scavenging Ooze can grow, no trample. And then, of course, you have the push-pull between the Scavenging Ooze and the Tarmogoyf as well, how aggressive you want to be with the Scavenging Ooze.
I mean, frankly, their creatures aren't even little. Like, that construct is at a 4/4 is not messing around.
Urza himself, the 1/4. You look at all of the non-creature spells that Kappolo brings to bear, and there's another paradoxical outcome. We already saw the one Paradox engine go by the board. A couple of Moxes, Baubles, Mindstone, Ichor, Wellspring. This all adds to the card drawing potential. EE, Everflowing Chalice, the Astrolabe, the 4 outcomes, 1 Nexus of Fate, the Serum Visions, and the Saheeli. 1 Nexus of Fate. I mean, you want the game to go long. So we've seen it in Standard. We're apparently seeing it in Modern right now.
It makes some sense if you're playing against a deck that doesn't care about the amount of Thopters you had. They can just go and untap and kill you. Then this way they can't, because you just go, oh, take another turn. Now, you don't get to untap.
The stack with the paradoxical on it. This is a card that has seen a lot of play in Vintage. It's seeing some play in Modern. It's seen a little bit of play in Legacy. Certainly saw some play during its run in Standard.
You can see right away how much value the Urza deck is getting. Just look at the amount of cards in each deck. 34 to 45.
Yeah, and KoDiamonds has even been able to leverage the Ren and 6 for some additional card drawing. Card drawing, not always Jund's forte, as it can sometimes be cold to the top of its own deck, but that's not the case for the paradoxical outcome decks.
Ren and 6 has helped. It's doing what it can.
Liliana doesn't look all that good right now if I'm KoDiamonds.
Yeah, I agree.
Back up Urza's in his opponent's hand.
I think he's got to crack his Peatland before doing anything here.
KoDiamonds taking his time, thinking his way through how he wants to try and break up Kappolo 42's board.
If he draws a kill spell for the Urza, he can just win the game. He has lethal on board, so if it's me, I'm just hoping I draw a push or Assassin's Trophy or something like that.
Just go for that right now.
Oh, yeah.
And then you've got the Liliana that can come down no matter what.
Right, exactly. So if the game goes another turn, I'm worried that KoDiamonds is just going to lose.
By the look on his face that we see, I think he's worried about the same thing. Diamonds and Team Ice, of course, down 1 match heading into this final night of the Modern Streamers League. 47-46. Team Fire on top, looking to take all of the money on the line for their charity. That is A21, looking to end human trafficking worldwide. Team Fire with the leg up right now. If it ends 50-50, those funds will be split. And Team Ice will earn a 50% share for the Cancer Research Institute, looking to put an end to all forms of cancer found around the globe. If either team can pull in 51 victories, they'll have it all for their favorite charity. You can still donate and make a difference. That donate button is just below us tonight here on the Modern Streamers League. Any amount of money would do wonders for those two great charities. KoDiamonds wants to pressure. Now, a block has to be made here.
Yeah, so I think the reason he did this is so that his opponent chumps and he gets to pump the Scavenging Ooze. This way, if he draws a bolt, he would still have had lethal, but it looks like he just wants to play the Liliana afterwards. Maybe get rid of that construct.
Yeah, this seems to force Kappolo into a certain line of play. He would have to, of course, bring down another Urza, or else there's lethal on board. There's going to be lethal on board for Ko either way. Oh, the one from the Ren and 6.
That's nice.
That's going to shut off some options for Kappolo. Of course, we see the Hallowed Fountain in the board. He also does have Inventor's Fair. So with this many artifacts, the ability for a slow climb back up from 1. Liliana going down, and right now it's Kappolo 42 who's in trouble. Lethal on board in the form of each creature. KoDiamonds only needs to connect with either, and then there's the backup plan of Ren and 6 being able to do 1 to any target. So there are 3 lethal options on board for KoDiamonds right now. That means Kappolo is going to either have to win it here or answer all 3.
Unfortunately, a combo deck with 8 cards in their hand at the start of the turn, they can do a lot.
It might be most difficult for him to reach out and deal with that Ren and 6. As we look at the list of non-creature spells available to him, Saheeli, Serum Visions, Nexus, Paradoxical, Astrolabe, EE, Overflowing Chalice. Those seem to be, his only options there. And of that, really only EE can take care of it without getting really complicated in the red zone.
Indeed. This is going to be a long turn, I think. The Psi triggering off of every artifact is going to help Urza to go infinite.
And we mentioned Spider Space, how diverse KoDiamonds' threats were on the board, with Kappolo being at 1. The downside to his board right now is everything costs 2, which EE can then answer in one fell swoop. If he can put that together, or if he chooses to go that way. Wellspring on the stack for another draw.
That's perfectly fine. So essentially pay 1 to make that happen, I think. Or no, it's just mana neutral, right?
Now the Mox.
And
shaking the head.
Actually, I think the Wellspring maybe is one of Kappolo's best draws there, because it's mana neutral and you can sacrifice it to the Psi later on to get another look for something.
Yeah, that has the effect of putting a couple of cards into his hand. That one Wellspring representing that much advantage. KoDiamonds uncomfortable. He looks like somebody exchanged his chair for a bed of tacks right now, as you see him just watching as his opponent, Andrea Biaggi, Kappolo 42, go off with this Urza's Paradox list.
Let me tell you, he has more courage than I do. If it was me, I'm crossing my fingers and closing my eyes.
I thought you might just say it's time to hit the concede button at this point. We talk about this with Storm. We've seen Caleb Shearer play throughout this MSL. When a line becomes deterministic, I think one thing, because this Paradox deck is in a relatively new form, players might not know when your opponent has that deterministic set of cards, correct? Is that why we're seeing KoDiamonds wait this out?
Absolutely. There's some tiny micro chance that Kappolo can't kill him, and he also wants to see how Kappolo's going to kill him.
That game 1 information worth so much. There's the EE. KoDiamond shaking his head, highlighting Urza. We all know Oh, don't read lips if you have a soft mind to damaging exclamations as KoDiamonds drinking and can only watch as this train continues to roll over him.
Yep, that's the game. I'm not even sure he has to do anything more. I think he's got lethal on board, but now he's just showing off.
Little grandstanding, you never know. He's showing off the power of this deck. The other draw again off of Wellspring.
That's the thing you gotta love about some of these combo decks, right? It's like, I could have killed you this way, but check out this other stuff I can do.
That is kind of fun that you have somebody with different options, at least, as opposed to, the prison decks would just do the same thing over and over, which is to try to lock you out of every opportunity.
He's still casting spells. It's like, did you find the concede button?
Well,
no,
it should have found the concede button, I would think, at this point. And it looks like, I thought he was reaching for the mouse, just the ice water. He's got plenty of ice water to wade this out. Speaking of prison decks, we'll see Susurrus coming up in the next round. His red Narset were prison, so Karn's blueprints. That is Kappolo 42 wins. And that's going to do it for game one. KoDiamonds so close, putting him to one Spider's face, but enough time for the combo deck in order to put together the win on its turn. We saw it with Caleb Shearer and Storm winning from one life on Monday night, and now we see it with Kappolo 42 here this evening.
Yeah, that was as close as he could be.
So what helps him in the sideboard right now for KoDiamonds?
Well, so the cards he's pulled aside are definitely the slam dunks of Collector Oof, shutting down all the artifacts, Plague Engineer stopping the Thopters that a lot of the deck of Kappolo's deck, the Ancient Grudge trying to catch the stray important artifact. I'm less in love with that, but the Vraska is also good because you get card advantage. It's kind of interesting to me that he decides that Liliana is not good. Obviously, Liliana doesn't pressure your opponent's face, but it pressures their hand. And I guess he's just deciding that the +1 discard's not going to do enough when his opponent's going paradoxical and draw 7 cards.
We'll see if he can find the answers that are going to help him through, or if it's going to be a 2-0 win here for Kappolo 42. Now, let's not forget the question that we wanted to ask Kappolo coming up in the postgame. You remember the question that you had for his line of play?
It was about playing the 0-drop. I think it was all about that Ren and 6 being able to ping the Construct and him wanting to keep it alive.
As the game went on, I think the same thing became evident. But yeah, we'll see, because that ever-flowing Chalice for 0 was kind of an eyebrow-raising play at the time.
I'm kind of interested in KoDiamond's sideboarding strategy there. If it's me, I think I'd sooner take out Ren and 6 than Liliana and just hope that, maybe he can Liliana ult if the plus isn't enough.
Yeah, that would certainly be a devastating effect for a combo deck that's trying to build up its resources. Lead on an Inquisition or KoDiamonds.
That's a hand.
It is.
So he takes the only Planeswalker he can take because everything else is just a redraw.
With the Saheeli down.
This card, Astrolabe, I think is one of the most powerful cards that doesn't quite seem it on the initial look. It's a redraw, but it's a card that stays on the board. And obviously fixes your mana unless your opponent plays a Collector Oof.
Has to crack it now. Oof has the sort of Stony Silence effect that we've come to know. It shuts down the abilities of artifacts. And this is going to be a big one to see if Kappolo can get rid of it. Collective Brutality out of the sideboard, certainly an option for Fatal Push there as well. And those seem to be the best removal options that Kappolo 42 could have gone to here at the sideboard to take away these sort of devastating creatures that are both a stop and also a minimal amount of pressure at the same time.
Indeed. I think Collector Oof is one of my favorite hate cards that's come out. I mean, it's in a lot of ways, it can be better than Stony Silence. Like if you're playing against a deck like Tron, you play a 2-mana card that stops what they're doing, but it also pressures them. It's a grizzly bear, but I of course am fond of grizzly bears.
Tezzeret, Agent of Bolus. There's no doubting the upside ceiling power level of that card. It's just, are you willing to meet the deck building requirements that it asks you to in order to leverage its power? And it's really sort of waxed and waned throughout the metagame over time.
It's a good card. There's a lot of powerful 4-mana options for artifact decks. I really like KoDiamonds' Patience here. He gets to Kolaghan's Command, get back the oof, blow up something. Oh. Huh. I guess he doesn't agree.
Now, Tarmogoyf, this was so key at pressuring Kappolo 42 early in game one. It didn't ultimately get there, but we did see it take large chunks out of Kappolo. Lightning Bolt, this time a little bit of reach. KoDiamonds would have loved that. KoDiamonds showing us his desktop here as he waits for to make a play. He would have given almost anything for that Lightning Bolt in the last game, you have to imagine. Losing the game with his opponent at 1 life.
Well, maybe not. He didn't want to take the redraw for the bolt, so,
Well, and you were arguing for it for the fatal push that would have worked for him as well. So he elected to go a different route, set his opponent to 1, and never got the chance to untap in that situation. Now the Tezzeret comes down, and this is hard to come back from. You want to talk about generating card advantage. That Tezzeret is going to allow Kappolo 42 to look at the top 4. It's got the ability to drain life. It really does everything once you get this many artifacts on the board and you can protect it.
I don't think it's going to stick around, unfortunately, for him. But this is so interesting. I feel like if I was playing Jund, I'd be taking so many different lines here. Like here, I would want to pressure the Tezzeret and see what my opponent does, and then maybe I'm just Kolaghan's commanding to either kill Tezzeret or the 5/5, and then just get back the oof. But he elects to draw a card instead. No, I would love to hear what he wants to draw at this moment.
Yeah, KoDiamonds in that thoughtful position. We see that body contortion, but also you have to wonder, is he thinking, boy, what 2 cards in a row can I draw at this point that are going to put me in an advantaged situation?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think he's trying to decide if he wants to use the Kolaghan's command, and if so, how.
This is the first of our 5 heavyweight matchups tonight. Susurrus and Davius Minimus. Davius has really championed the power of mid-range all throughout the Modern Streamers League. That should be an interesting matchup. YamaKiller on Hardened Scales and PuntThenWhine on Midrange Titan. Visquis on another Urza Thopter build against Goblins from GhostxEmpire. And it's going to be Matt Hurley on Esper Delay. I think we need a new nickname for that, and I've got a good one for it later, against Cyrus on Amulet Titan. So we'll see all those matchups coming up tonight. Team Fire ahead by 1 match, 48-47. Team to 51 is going to win the whole thing, or will it end in a draw? The Tarmogoyf turning sideways, but not really pressuring, as Kappolo has stabilized here at 19 with these resources on the board. And now here comes the paradoxical outcome. This feels like Kappolo's starting to pull away, Spider Space.
Oh, it absolutely does. That you see that as the deck trying to grind out your opponent. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, we're not playing the same game anymore.
Yeah, a lone Tarmogoyf and a lightning bolt. KoDiamonds can't feel like he has much power at this point.
Not with an EE ready to crack.
Well, an EE on 2 has been such a threat for Kappolo in this matchup. Tarmogoyf, Scavenging Ooze, Ren and 6. We see all of these creatures for 2. Tireless Tracker is a 3. Bloodbraid Elf's a 4, but we haven't seen KoDiamonds leverage any of those so far in this matchup.
Yeah. I like Kappolo's patience with the Mishra's Bauble both lets you wait on the EE as well as not letting your opponent discard you because you would draw it at the beginning of the next upkeep. So this way he gets to hold up and not have anything be naked to a removal spell that it doesn't need to be.
Now KoDiamonds looking for that Scavenging Ooze, has to replace the threat after losing the Tarmogoyf, because without pressure, there's no hope for Jund in this matchup. It has to be with pressure and a couple of green sources up, so KoDiamonds can go to work with the Scavenging Ooze if he so chooses. But it just feels like, you know, he's the one rolling the boulder uphill right now.
Mm-hmm. Oof, yeah.
And the Sky Master Thopter is now we're going to see the advantage really mushroom here for Kappolo.
So many cards that just they come down and I'm just like, oh, so the game is that it? Are we done? When you're sitting there with a souped up grizzly bear and your opponent says every card I play draws a card and makes a 1/1. Yeah, not in a great spot.
Souped up grizzly bear. I think I'm going to have to steal that terminology from you. I love it. So what's the line? When does something cross the line from a grizzly bear to a hate bear, or are those interchangeable?
So the hate bears are the grizzly bears that have hateful text on them. Scavenging Ooze does have that, but also gets to be bigger than a normal grizzly bear. Hence it's souped up. I guess it depends on if the hate bear is relevant, right?
Like a V8 hate bear. It's a Vooz, a V8 at this point. Chris, and some new words for our different categories of grizzly bears and hate bears. Renin 6 in hand, Lightning Bolt as well. But with that EE sitting around, that Renin 6 really, I'm not that interested in deploying it into that face, but I got to be able to get something going here.
I'm not. Honestly, I'm not sure what KoDiamonds can draw at this point in the game. Like, I don't know what he needs. I guess it starts with Plague Engineer on Thopter.
You're going to use the...
This is nice.
And the plus from Ren to knock out the Psy.
It's not bad.
It doesn't really feel like you've got 2 for 1 in that situation because the Renin 6 sticks around.
Right. But...
First that comes out, and Ko knows he's fighting uphill.
He feels that every card that comes down that's not just, oh, here's a free cantrip is like, oh, how many resources am I going to have to throw into this Urza?
Now, KoDiamonds, Kevin Wang, who was here on Monday night hanging out with us for the MSL, he really did say that he enjoyed the MSL this season, but you can't tell that by his body language. I think he'd rather be anywhere else right now than on the receiving end of this spectacular display from Kappolo 42 with his Urza's Paradox deck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've seen a lot of him just get these matches, and it's just like you see maybe it's just the life of a Jund player of just like, oh, here's another card I'm going to have to put more resources into. When you get these decks that outvalue you and that's your plan, it's like, well, where do we go from here?
Well, and as somebody who's registered Jund before, you know what you're doing to yourself when you're choosing a 48% deck at that point. You know, you're sort of signing up for this mentality throughout the day. And KoDiamonds, maybe he thought the matchups would be different with the opponents he expected to play in the last 3 weeks of the MSL, because open deck lists are part of the MSL, and you can make judgments about saying, okay, this type of player known for playing this, maybe you could try to meta game part of your deck selection based on the 3 opponents that each player knew they had coming up during weeks 8, 9, and 10 in the MSL. KoDiamonds went for this Jund list, and he is wishing that he had made a different choice this evening.
You can't blame him. I mean, I think a Jund player, you got to stick to Jund. It's what he knows. He's a green-black X player at heart, and he wants to fight that fair fight. He wants to, all right, trade a 1-for-1 here, 1-for-1 there. But when your opponent's like, hey, here's a 4-mana draw 5, or hey, here's a 4-mana combo off and make a 7/7 while I'm at it. It's tough.
Jun's version of combo coming up with Bloodbraid Elf. Fatal push. He's going to go after the Urza.
He's got a fetch
here. Have the
here.
revolt trigger. He'll put it on the stack and then go for the fetch should he need to. And he doesn't stack the triggers correctly, going for the Bloodstained Mire in order to put revolt into effect. And KoDiamonds, you can see the visceral pain of the mistake on his face as Team Ice looking to fall further behind Team Fire as Kappolo 42 looks like this pendulum has swung powerfully in his direction right now.
I was about to say he's got to hold priority. If you're not familiar with MDGO, that means holding control and then slamming that fetch before the fatal push resolves.
That is the kind of mistake that is highly unlikely to be made in a paper tournament.
Yeah, indeed.
With that on the stack, you can always fetch the Bloodstained Mire away, make sure Revolt is in effect, and then that Urza would be off the table. Right now, KoDiamonds slamming off the headphones, wiping his brow, and now coupled them back on. He wants to try to find a way to get back into this grind fest of a match against the Urza deck.
Often with John, the answer begins with Bloodbraid Elf, and here it would have done things, but that's a rough mistake.
Well, one of the Jund answers that would be good against a variety of, say, Thopter tokens or a triple overflowing chalice or everflowing chalice, has been Maelstrom Pulse in the past, simply because it can be a multiple for one. But as I look over the list for KoDiamonds, he's gotten away from Maelstrom Pulse, Liliana the Veil, K-Command, Lightning Bolt, Inquisition, Fatal Push, Assassin's Trophy, Renin 6, Thoughtseize, and no pulses in the board either.
Yeah, I mean, Pulse is a good card, but a lot of the time I feel you KoDiamonds. I feel you.
Why, MTGO? Why?
I was going to say a lot of these Jund lists, at least before the ban-unban, kind of went to these kind of like lower to the ground Jund lists. You'd see people trying to be more efficient. I'm not sure if that's where his mind was when he didn't have Pulse in the deck, or if he just felt like he could answer enough stuff with Trophy and Kolaghan's Command and discard spells.
Paradox Engine now out and online for Kappolo 42. And the rich keep getting richer. The advantage bar keeps sliding over a little bit more. However you want to describe it, KoDiamonds seems to be falling further off the pace now.
I guess he's got to hope this tireless tracker draws some gas.
He should be able to manifest at least the one clue off of the cracked fetch land, Bloodbraid Elf, and jump in front of the artifact.
They both really value that Renin 6.
It's going to be interesting with that Renin 6 just at 2 loyalty right now to see how KoDiamonds really wants to start leveraging it. The pinging effect doesn't seem like it's going to do much at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he could take the Thopter off the board, but just getting a redraw here is definitely better.
Cycle the Baron Moore. That'll pick up another Scavenging Ooze. I mean, 2 Scavenging Oozes are fine, but they kind of eat each other's food. So not necessarily the greatest pair of creatures to have on the board, 2 Oozes.
One of them may be chumping here in a minute.
Scavenging Ooze going to come in. Knock for 4. We'll see the Tireless Tracker. This is a good sequencing of plays by KoDiamonds. Get the landfall trigger off the Tireless Tracker, and then the Ooze can come down and can be that road bump blocker, speed bump blocker.
Yeah, I think the game is about to have the door shut in his face this turn because of the Paradox Engine and the Urza. It's so much value. Even if he didn't draw an artifact, he gets to take a couple redraws with the Urza. It's really tough. Oh, that, yeah. Ugh.
Now the Paradox Engine spins up. Sai comes down, and the value train just rolls on right now.
Polo's heading there without KoDiamonds.
Yes, yes, that's for certain. I feel a little bit voyeuristic just watching KoDiamonds' reactions throughout this game. It's like keeping the camera on someone who's been the one who's been broken up with or dumped in a relationship. Out of some sick, satisfaction, Schadenfreude of watching them suffer just slowly.
I mean, I'm Team Ice here, and with this being the last week, I'm rooting for him. But man, has this been rough.
No honey for the honey bear to find this week. KoDiamonds, Kevin Wang doesn't look like he's going to be able to drag Team Ice across the victory line here in round 1 this evening. We have 4 more rounds coming up. Can Team Fire put away the season-long victory? It was tied at 45 match wins apiece coming into week 10. A 3-2 Monday night for Team Fire has them up 1 match right now. This is the first of 5, and it looks like Kappolo 42 and Team Fire going to go up 2 matches here as he has an enormous lead in Game 2 and has already taken Game 1 for Team Fire.
Look at that 17 mana floated.
KoDiamonds looks like he's got a pen and a piece of paper. We might see another note coming our way.
I hope so.
I can't quite make that one out.
Kappolo, stop ruining me is what it looks like.
Stop bullying me. Oh, it's a cry for help from an opponent. My opponents never ask for help. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they're always the one that seem to have the lead on me. KoDiamonds, though.
You never had one of those games where your opponent's ahead and then asks for a little edge?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's just egregious. I'll just, pick my cards up at that point. Kappolo showing us some of his emotional state right now. Simpsons gifts. You can control this, Honey Bear. You can press the concede button at any point. So kind of wallowing in his own misery right now.
He's a real trooper. I will give him that.
Yes, I feel like somebody in the corner at a fight. Just can I throw in the white towel for him? Can I save him from any more of this at this point? Spider, you mentioned a little grandstanding before. I think Kappolo showing off all of the moves the deck can make at this point. Now, KoDiamonds has left the match. He has had just about enough. He's gone to get his emotional support dog, and boy, it is none too soon for that either.
Oh, boy. I mean, we might see Kappolo just literally play every single card in his deck right here. If he wanted to, he could do it.
That puppy might only be a 1/1, but that's the best move that Kevin's made all night is getting the emotional support dog.
Oh, my goodness.
This is just an overwhelming board state from Kappolo 42.
It's just getting worse.
Yeah, we'll be asking Andrea about this coming up after the match. He had the forecast of doom to set up how he thought the matchup would go. He's going to join me for round 2 coming up. That's going to be Susurrus and Davius Minimus coming up next. Susurrus on Blue-Red, Narset War Prison. Minimus going to be on Saheeli Niv combo. Saheeli Nev Mizzet combo. That should be fun to see how that really Blue-Red backbone deck holds up.
That'll be interesting. I have no idea what that matchup looks like.
We saw him play with Nev Mizzet a bit at the first part of the season, and it was one that was really built around value of the multicolored spells, and it generates a ton of value, if that's still relevant by the time he puts it together at that point in the game. We'll see how this version of the deck is constructed coming up in our next round. KoDiamonds just on the F6 plan as the Paradox engine continues to whir. Is KoDiamonds just does he need a little FaceTime here? I guess some adulation because he could have pressed concede at any point and saved all of us this situation. He's taking, okay, this I can get behind. He's taking time to show us the upside of the charity that the Team Ice is playing for this season with the American Cancer Society and the Cancer Research Institute. They all are things that come together. And A21, of course, for Team Fire. This is the charity that Team Fire and Kappolo 42 are playing for, looking to end human trafficking worldwide. So, KoDiamonds, even though you could have spared yourself this with a concession at any point, I applaud your use of this punishing screen time for having yourself live through.
I think he's just saying there that it's okay either way. It'll be good.
Cracking in is Kappolo. That one intuition or inquisition in his deck now doesn't look very good. He could have intuition at this point, and I don't think it would do him any good.
I don't even know what he could have here that he would need.
Nexus of Fate now, and I'm hoping that KoDiamonds just hits the concede button. It looks like he finally will end it, and this is going to be enough. He's set to 1. Even if he doesn't, it's going to be plenty for Kappolo 42 to crack in and take the victory. 2-0 Team Fire going to pick up round 1 here this evening of the Modern Streamers League. Let's bring in the aforementioned Andrea Biaggi, Kappolo 42. That was a vicious beating that you just handed out to a man who's been gracious enough to join me twice for commentary. I'm not going to say he didn't deserve it, but certainly it was an opportunity for you to show off the power of the deck that you put together, the power of Urza, Paradox Engine, outcome. Certainly all of those things came together in the win, Andrea. Were you just showing off a little bit at the end?
No, the problem is that I needed to take an extra turn or have enough artifact to kill, and there's only one Nexus of Fate, and sometimes it's really hard to find it. You need to click so many times before you can find your one-off card in your remaining 30 cards of the deck. That's why it took a while to kill Kevin, but it was a pleasure to take that long time and watch him suffer.
I had the observation during game 1. You played what looked like a curious ever-flowing chalice on 0 after the outcome. Was that simply to protect the pressure that you had from the Ren and 6 on board, or did you have a longer plan in mind there, or was there a line that we just not as familiar with the deck may have missed?
No, Gabriel was right. I wanted to save the construct to make it as a 2/2, because that construct is extra pressure, is a blocker for the future, and also it's an extra mana.
2-0, the win for Kappolo 42. Andrea Biaggi. Andrea's going to join me for our next matchup, but before we get there, Doom, was that just painful for you to watch as Team Ice was just slowly crushed?
It was very, very painful to watch, especially since we need every single win we can have here. I don't know if you guys remember, but on Monday, Kevin gave me a really hard time just in general for being 10-0, and he just fell to 5-5 in the league. If he'd gone 6-4, we'd be looking at a tied league right now with 4 matches to go. But come on, Kevin. Just because Andrea went to the GP and came in 11th in a room full of over 1,000 people, don't be intimidated by him. You can step it up. You can beat this Urza man. I know he's flaunting this incredible artwork behind him with that entire board of Magic cards, but he's not a monster. He's beatable, Kevin. You can do it, but you didn't. It's a little bit late. Sorry I missed the pep talk there. As a quick aside note, it just kind of I think that match was a perfect moment to see where Green-Black X is in the meta, because it didn't matter how much of the game, even just game 1, how much of the game it looked like Kevin was just in control, and all Kappolo had to do was just drop one Urza or one side or the blue card that bounces all the stuff back to your hand and draws you a ton of cards. There was no, hey, draw 7 cards in Jund. Jund doesn't have that. Amulet Titan has that with Titan drawing stuff. Urza has that so much. Just Urza itself does that. But there's Bloodbraid Elf just oh, you get a fatal push and a 3/2 haste. Cool. Like it doesn't feel like it does enough. I think
Right.
Jund needs
Even when fatal push kills the target that you put it on, it really wasn't going to do much at that point. So we'll see how this continues to play out here this evening. But before we move to match 2, Gabriel, Max and Spider Space on the commentary for round 1. Spider, you mentioned that KoDiamonds a master of the green-black X decks. If you're going to play one of those green-black X decks in the format right now, are you playing green-black? Are you pairing it with another color? What would be your choice? What's the most powerful right now in your mind? Is it straight green-black? Is it green-black splashing a third color? And if so, which one?
Well, we saw him submit Abzan, if I'm not mistaken, the first season. And I actually agree with his choice to switch to Jund. I think that the red cards that you get right now are actually pretty good. Kolaghan's Command being the main reason to be in red. I mean, if it's me, I'm not registering Jund, but if you have to register green-black, Jund's the way to go.
Coming up in round 2, it's going to be the warden of maybe the best prison in Modern. Susurrus, you know him for his prison style. His blue-red Narset Whir prison deck is going to be faced down by Davius Minimus. He's championed mid-range really throughout the Modern Streamers League, and his Saheeli Niv combo put Team Ice on the board. We'll find out next. Forecast of Doom coming up. I'll be joined by Andrea Biaggi. This is the Modern Streamers League.
Welcome back to the Forecast of Doom. We have an exciting one here. We have Davius Minimus on Saheeli Mizzet against Susurrus, or Prison Mike, on Karn Prison. Both of these players brewed their own decks, which is always really exciting. And both of these decks have the ability to push to a very late game. Now, normally, Karn Prison wants to drop an Ensnaring Bridge and then win the game by just controlling the game with Karn, Bridge, and buying lots of time till eventually you win the game, probably with a Lattice Lock. Davius, however, he wants to drop a 5-mana 6/6 flying that draws him up a bunch of cards. Mizzet is the key to this deck and will be drawing a ton of cards. Now, overall, we have the Saheeli Ray combo in here, so he can win as fast as turn 4. Turn 3, if he goes turn 1 Bird, turn 2 Saheeli, turn 3 Felidar Guardian. But the deck isn't really built around doing that as fast as possible. Instead, what he's looking to do is use Bring to Light to tutor up specific answers, and those answers are very numerous. Kolaghan's Command, 3 Teferi Time Cop, 2 Assassin's Trophy, 1 Decay. Now in the sideboard, he also has Fracturing Gust and 2 Stony Silence, which we can see be brought in, which can really hurt Susurrus' plan. Susurrus, however, has a Torpor Orb, which you can grab off of Karn, which can stop a lot of the combos we're looking at, including that Felidar Guardian combo. Now, Welding Jar and Ensnaring Bridge can kind of stop the Kolaghan's Command, Abrupt Decay, Trophy engines, and can slow down Davius enough where he's going to try to win with a Saheeli Rai or something like that ping over the long term. That's a really slow strategy, but it is an out Davius has to winning through a bridge. I think that Davius is slightly favored here only because he has so many must-answer cards. It's hard for a prison deck to answer them all or get ready for them all. That's my forecast. Let's see how it all plays out.
That was well timed on my part. Enjoyed the banner raising of my St. Louis Blues this evening. Monitor just off to the left, but this is how important the Modern Streamers League is to me. I'm here tonight with you for some of the best Modern you're going to see anywhere. Sean Seacrease, joined now by the man that we just saw pilot Urza outcome to the victory, and that is Kappolo 42, Andrea Biaggi. Andrea, thanks for hanging out and helping me with the analysis as we see this showdown between Susurrus and Davius Minimus.
Yeah, the hand for Davius looks pretty good. It has one part of the combo, and also Teferi, I think, is really important in this matchup because it can bounce the Ensnaring Bridge, can bounce Torpor Orb, and so it's really helpful to like bounce the hate cards and be able to go off with. Because I feel like Susurrus needs to find 2 hate cards to stop the combo if Teferi is in play.
What's the interesting makeup addition that Davius has made to this Niv Mizzet deck here on the second time he's run it in the MSL? When we saw it early in weeks 1, 2, he didn't have this Saheeli combo in there. It was really more of a value deck generated off putting Niv Mizzet into play as quick as possible. If you add the threat of a combo package to a grindy deck, we've seen this years ago when you had the twin decks able to just kind of value you out with Tarmogoyf over a longer game or just win with Splinter Twin if you ever gave him the opportunity. I'm not saying that Davius's build has quite reached that level yet, but adding the potential of an instant combo kill has to give this deck a little bit more range.
Yes, I agree. Also, sideboarding with him against him is really hard. I had to play against him. Like, do I bring in like combo hate cards? Do I want to go for the longer game? But I need to play the shorter game as well. So it's not easy to sideboard against a deck that, especially when you have open deck list, you know the range. So you need to sideboard for the short game, the long game. It's really confusing to sideboard.
Yeah, ironically, with open deck list, you actually have more to be afraid of in these kind of matches.
It's kind of curious that he attacks with the bird instead of like flickering the Oath of Nissa with the Felidar Guardian. Because you can probably find the last piece of the combo.
Yeah, Oath of Nissa, something else that gives him reach, and that has to be of paramount of importance against aggressive decks. And we'll see one of those coming up next, YamaKiller on Hardened Scales. So there are still aggressive decks in this format, and that hedge with Oath has to be so good for him.
Yes. Also, Knight is a good answer, and this is a super early concession.
So Davius is going to pick up game one on the concession from Susurrus. And Susurrus, it looked like, we can't see his hand, but it felt like he just couldn't find anything to get going. And Davius was really adding to the board, putting value pieces in play that was going to make it really hard for Susurrus to win.
Yes, and also he was aware of the double Felidar Guardian in hand, so that meant two other artifacts would have been destroyed in the process.
Davius going for the sideboard here. You mentioned, Andrea, how difficult it was for you to sideboard against Davius. If you're Davius now, are you simply just looking to put the most potent 60 cards out of your 70 into this deck? Or are you looking at how you can pick apart War Prison? Are you worried about the actual prison elements of it?
I think what you want to do in Davius' side is to bring in all the answers to their hate, because I feel like you don't need to bring in like any other like proactive threat. You just need to answer like the Torpor Orb, answer the Ensnaring Breach, maybe the Spellsky, the Welding Jar.
Mm-hmm.
So you need just to bring in like answer to there are few interaction pieces that Susurrus has, and then you should be fine to win this matchup.
Davius thinking about how he's going to put that 60 together here in round two. Team Ice, they're going to need all the wins now. Team Fire at 49 victories. One more will assure them of at least a split and half the money raised going to their charity, A21, looking to end human trafficking worldwide. We'll get an update on what that contribution from the Modern Streamers League is going to be from League founder St. Doom before the night is over. Thank you for joining us here on the final night of this first run of the Modern Streamers League. Sean Secrease along with Andrea Biaggi will be rejoined by Spider Space and the St. Doom coming up in just a bit. Now game two, Davius Minimus going to be on the draw against Susurrus, the Prison Master. For Prison, big advantage. Draw, play, or is this a deck that doesn't really care as much, Andrea?
I feel like Prisons want to be on the play just because you can deploy your pieces faster, and also you can empty your hand for your Ensnaring Bridge. Especially in this case, Ensnaring Bridge, you need to be empty-handed because the lethal attack of the combo is just with one power. So you just one card in hand is not enough. You need to have your hand completely empty.
Yeah, with most instant combo attacks, you're thinking, hey, just go for the one big punch. It's actually a huge help that Felidar is only one power because it makes the prison deck be absolutely empty-handed. Now, that's not always difficult for them, but we have seen hands get clogged with multiple lands and they can't get rid of them. Now, Felidar Guardian can get in underneath that. We'll see how this develops. Davius electing to go without the Oath of Nissa here on turn one.
Yeah, you want to hold Spell Pierce for like hate pieces. I don't think it's going to counter the Talisman. Or maybe he will.
Dip into the deck now. Go for the reading pool.
Yeah, you just want to counter the most relevant pieces that are disrupting you.
He'll go for the Oath of Nissa now and dig. This helps set up all of the mana you need for Planeswalkers. It replaces itself in your hand with the top three from your deck, and it can draw you a wide variety of threats. And this is an interesting pickup. Obviously looking to be aware of the graveyard by going for that Kaya.
Yes, and hoping to draw naturally the fourth land that he needs. But I feel like Kaya could be useful just to put on pressure. It's like another win condition. Even though it's going to be slower, it's another win condition that Davius has.
Picks up the fourth land, goes for the Renin 6, and he'll immediately return that fetch from his graveyard to his hand.
So I feel like having a lot of Planeswalkers is really hard for Susurrus to deal, because it needs multiple Pitying Needle, because Renin 6 is a win condition by itself, Kai is a win condition by itself, then you have the combo. So it's like
devastating spell pierce on one of the biggest threats that Susurrus can deploy. Tezzeret, spell pierced, and now Davius Minimus would seem to be off to the races.
Yeah. Okay, it's going for Knight instead of like blinking the Out of Nissa and trying to find a Saheeli. Feels like he has enough time to combo off. And also, Knight of Autumn gives the insurance of an Ensnaring Bridge, because you can combo off, and with the last flicker of Feridar Guardian, you flicker your Knight of Autumn to kill the Ensnaring Bridge.
This deck has a lot of weapons against what Susurrus is trying to do. It feels really sort of overwhelming once Davius gets rolling.
Yeah, it's a pretty slow deck, but once it gets going, it's like almost unstoppable. Also, like even if all the disruptions, kind of like the Urza deck, you just top deck a Bring to Light or a Niv Mizzet, and you have 6-7 cards back in your hand, plus a 6/6 flying. That's pretty good.
Yeah, there's the obvious use of Saheeli and Feridar Guardian as the combo, but this deck actually comes packing a lot of things that have Enter the Battlefield triggers, and you've got a wide variety of repeatable effects that you could leverage with that blink mechanic that really give you a lot of points on the fringe.
Yes, and that's why, as Mike mentioned, Torpor Orb is really good against this deck.
Yeah, that would shut down a lot of options that Davius is leveraging right now for Team Ice. Already up 1-0. All he's lacking now is the ability to start drawing down the life total of Susurrus. Another Spellskite looking to come down.
And Spellskite doesn't stop the combo. Unlike it when you Splinter Twin, you can like subactivation of the cast of Splinter Twin. Spellskite doesn't stop the Saheeli because it says copy a creature you control, becomes an artifact copy. So Davius is playing the slow game right now.
He's just using Ren and 6 to go to work a bit on his opponent's life total. Speaking of life totals, Andrea, I think one of the reasons that I've always been a little leery to pick up prison-style decks in a format like Modern, and we're going to see Davius pick up the win via concession. His overwhelming advantages just picked apart Susurrus's deck. So I want to follow up on that after the 2-0 win for Team Ice. Team Ice gets on the board. Andrea, you look at a format like Modern where the mana bases are so painful if you want to play things on time regularly. Prison seems to give up the pain to your opponent because it doesn't pressure the life total at all. Sure, it can lock people out, but is that an angle that maybe prison decks have to worry about? They're giving their opponent so much momentum by not pressuring that life total that they're letting them go shock, fetch, best possible play, every turn without really being able to threaten them back.
Yes, that's a big advantage of like playing as like prison or like sometimes Tron. It's like your life total doesn't matter too much, but you need to be like aware of your life total, because if you don't know about the deck list, the prison list can play like a pirate spell bomb, and like out of nowhere they can just like ping you twice and you're dead. So don't assume that you're playing against a certain deck that your life total doesn't matter. Also, against Infect in the past, I don't care about my life. I just like shock and then I got killed by a Noble Hierarch, pumped twice. So be aware.
Spider Space, was Susurrus quick enough on the concede button for you in that round?
I wanted to say something about his list. I think his deck is actually quite good in a blind field, but in a tournament like this where we all know that that's what he's playing and we all expect it, you end up with people really easily able to gun for him. Like you saw Davius had a shattering, or the
Fracturing Gust. Yep.
In his sideboard, and I mean he probably didn't even need that to be able to win that kind of game, but we all just jam that kind of card because it costs one sideboard card to say no to that entire deck, and that's a rough spot to be.
The Saint Doom, Mike Goldenberg with us as well here in the post-match analysis. You were the one who was the grandfather of this league, the godfather of this format for the Modern Streamers League. Did you have concerns about that type of metagaming when you looked at how to put these sort of chapters of the league together, if you will, where you had players switching decks after a certain number of weeks, knowing which opponents they were going to play, because it did allow for some sort of small tournament metagaming?
Absolutely. There was a little bit of concern with that. That's why I didn't have a league where you could change your deck every week. Otherwise, when you're seeing these specialists, imagine if you're playing against Sodek and you're like, Sodek's going to be on Dredge. He's always on Dredge. I'm going to play 4 Leyline, 4 Rip, and just run through that. That wouldn't be quality. That wouldn't be fun. That wouldn't give. No one would learn anything from that. So we had chunks like this one right now. We submitted a deck list for 3 matches, and we had to stick with that same deck list for 3 matches. Me personally, I looked at that and I saw I was playing Garrett. Well, I'm blanking right now. Garrett, Dito, and RJ. And I had to play those 3, and I was like, there's no real way for me to metagame here. So I just stuck with a mid-range deck, and it turns out I'm pretty sure Team Fire was metagaming against me, expecting me to be on Stoneforge Mystic, and that's why you saw that main board smash to smithereens. So I don't think the decks got warped. I think that 1 or 2, like Gabriel was saying, 1 or 2 sideboard / main board changes were probably made just to be optimal in certain situations.
Spider, did you see anything that surprised you in that matchup? Was there anything from Davius that you looked at and went, I know he's been kind of the mid-range representative throughout this league, but is there a attack or an angle or something that he showed you that kind of raised your eyebrows? Because you mentioned it before, you're ultimately a fair magic kind of guy.
I've actually been playing something kind of like this deck recently, maybe a little less fair than his version, actually. He's out mid-ranging my take, but the thing that I liked that he was doing was the flickering of the Oath of Kaya, because that card gains you time. It's essentially like a lightning helix, but in this deck, you get to go flicker it or bounce it with Teferi, and that's just a nice angle to shoot to buy a lot of time.
YamaKiller on Hardened scales. This one is going to be quick. If he has his way, PuntThenWhine, a master of mid-range Titan strategy. They'll show down next. It is round 3 of the final night of the Modern Streamers League. We'll have the forecast of doom. We'll remind you of the score, 49-48. We continue to close it, possible winner, and a charity to take home all 10 weeks worth of effort here on the Modern Streamers League.
Welcome back to the Forecast of Doom. We have PuntThenWhine on Amulet Titan against YamaKiller on Hardened Scales. The way this matchup is going to break down is it's going to be a little bit of a race, with Amulet Titan having to interact or be very, very fast against Hardened Scales. There's some interesting notes about PuntThenWhine's list here I want to go over. Mainly, he has a mainboard Reclamation Sage, a mainboard Thragtusk, Primal Command, and a singleton Engineered Explosives. I think those can be key cards in this particular matchup. If PuntThenWhine doesn't have an explosive start, he's going to lean on those removal spells in game 1 to keep YamaKiller from just going all scales all the time and win very, very quickly. Now, post-board Punt also has access to 2 more Engineered Explosives, a pair of Dismembers, a Tectonic Edge, which is an extra removal spell for Inkmoth Nexus, a Hornet Queen, and one of Nature's Claim. All those are extra removal spells which can hit a Steel Overseer or a Ravager or something to slow down the Hardened Scales deck. Now, Amulet Titan, people in the Amulet Titan community like to talk about how Amulet Titan has no bad matchups. I think this is not a great matchup, but as we sometimes see, Amulet Titan can get away with having a bad matchup by having a very, very fast draw. That's the Forecast of Doom. Oh, one last thing. There's 3 Damping Spheres in YamaKiller's sideboard, which are fetchable off of Ancient Stirrings. That is what YamaKiller is going to bring in to slow down PuntThenWhine. For those who aren't aware, Damping Sphere, both sides of Damping Sphere hit Amulet Titan. Primarily, though, knocking them off of colored mana sources with those Karoo lands. But that is going to be a little bit rougher post-board for Punt, even though he does have more cards to come in. So, that's the Forecast of Doom. Let's see how it all plays out. Absolutely not. We see a quick mulligan here from Punt. He's looking for a hand. He's got a hand with the amulet, so that's what he had. Turn 1, the mulligan, he had a hand with just a Karoo land, which he couldn't keep that. So that's kind of something that he had to think about. I think in any matchup you want to race, Amulet Titan is the most important card you can have. And this is a matchup where you need to race. So having an Amulet lets you play Titan, and not only play Titan faster, but also get to a spot where you can play Titan, attack with Titan, and set up a lethal board state. I think what he's just going to do is drop a Azusa and then look to... Yep, we're going to see an Azusa, another Amulet. So if he can find a Titan here with that second Amulet, he is a turn 3 kill.
This turning out to be one of the better hands that Titan can put together, even off the mulligan. And so far, we didn't see much on the opening turn play from Hardened Scales in this matchup.
Not at
Just
all.
the well.
Oh, sorry.
Another Amulet. And this is going to give Punt plenty of mana coming up next turn. The problem is for him, there's nothing hanging out in the hand but mana at this point.
If he top decks any source for Titan, his 4 packs or his 4 Titans, he just wins it. Oh, triple Amulet. This is almost unfair. Unfortunately, even a Tolaria West wouldn't... Actually, Tolaria West as a top deck is now live because you play Tolaria West, untap it 3 times, float 3 blue, play Boros Garrison, bounce a Tolaria West, and then he can actually attack in this particular board state right now with quite a few Titans, although 1 should be enough. I imagine Gal would be the type of player who would concede with 2 Titans crashing in on him.
We'll see as YamaKiller starts to put together the Hardened Scales combo. Now he sees an opportunity coming up here with Walking Ballista to take down Azusa, and that's going to be the case. Now the pack comes off. What can PuntThenWhine do with 3 amulets, a bounce land, and a pact?
Win. Just win. This is... I mean, he needs an extra green mana to be able to cast the Titan, but he is so far ahead here. What he can do... Oh, Azusa got killed.
Yeah, that was gunned down last turn by the Walking Ballista.
Yep, so play around Walking Ballista for Tolaria West.
Mm-hmm. I love his players have gotten into this, and feel free to write us notes here during the matches as they see things unfolding.
So next turn he's got the Titan, he plays the Crumbling Vestige, gets a green off of the ETB, it untaps 3 times for colorless, 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 and then he just wins the game. That is a very large Walking Ballista.
He is under duress here, but it is not going to be enough. Oh, now he gets the green bounce land, and this is going to be plenty.
Yes. This is game right here. Unfortunately, even an 8/8 Walking Ballista is not enough to stop what is about to happen here. This is sheer insanity. These hands that PuntThenWhine has this hand right here. I know it's turn 5 and he's casting Titan, but what he's going to do right here is what people look at and say, that Amulet Titan is a combo deck. The Amulet Titan is insanely powerful. What he's doing right now is madness.
He's going to go for the Titan. I imagine that the Titan is going to go for Tolaria West to get another act for another Titan.
Yep. He can actually attack with 3 Titans, so the Walking Ballista can only kill 1, and then the 2 other Titans can both get double strike in 8 power, and can actually just win the game from there. 2 8-powered, that's 16, it's 32 damage. He might that's an easy line. He might actually find a line that does a little bit more, but you don't need to deal more than 32 damage at this particular moment.
Well, and really, especially with an opponent that's 1 tapped out, and 2, you can read the potential for interaction on the board with the Walking Ballista. We talked about this a little bit earlier, Spiderspace and I, about really having open lines of play. That was in Kappolo's game, Andrea, because his opponent was tapped out and didn't have the ability to interact with him with any permanence on the board. That's just the combo deck's dream at that point, and we're seeing a version of that play out again right now.
Absolutely. YamaKiller also needs to wait just in case that the Slayer Stronghold is in PuntThenWhine's hand, because he doesn't know about that Selesnya Sanctuary. So if that was the Slayer Stronghold, he would have to get an Azusa with the last Tolaria West, so it wouldn't be quite lethal.
Now another pact coming down.
This is so fun.
One man's definition of fun on display right now. Maybe more than one, with Francisco, the Saint Doom, and PuntThenWhine all on Team Ice. That's at least 30% of Team Ice describing this as fun by some of their deck choices that we've seen over this Modern Streamers League.
So you can see, because of the way MTGO works, Punt has to make sure he triggers his Amulet, make sure they triggers the untaps correctly. For example, if Slayer's Stronghold untaps before the Boros Garrison untaps 3 times, he won't be able to do this trick right now, which is giving all 3 Primeval Titans haste. So you need to make sure you layer that correctly on MTGO. In paper, it's easy. You just say, yep, I'll do this, 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 this. You just kind of do it, kind of shortcut. But on MTGO, you actually have to order them correctly, which is going to be a bit brutal for new players.
We saw that take a piece out of Kevin Wang's strategy earlier tonight. KoDiamonds missed that trigger off of his Bloodbraid Elf as he was looking to put the fatal push on the stack correctly to kill Urza, but didn't have Revolt yet.
I'm curious why YamaKiller didn't kill one of the Titans. It didn't matter, I guess, but he hasn't conceded, and he hasn't killed the Titan yet either. So there we go. All right.
Maybe hoping for a misclick at that point. I mean, that's really what his defense was down to.
That was his only out, was a misclick and Punt not having enough to pay for his 3 packs. Mm-hmm. So if he was able to shoot down one Titan, for whatever reason, Punt didn't give them double strike, and also didn't have enough mana, 12 mana on board, which both of those are pretty unlikely. That, I guess, was his only out.
Now we go to the sideboards, and you mentioned really quickly from the YamaKiller side, he's got a couple of big-time cards out of the board that Titan decks fear.
Damping Sphere, Damping Sphere, Damping Sphere. The problem with that card against Amulet Titan is it completely shuts off your colored mana sources. If it just made it so your Karoo lands tapped for a single color instead of 2 mana, that wouldn't be as painful. But locking you out of colored mana sources can sometimes be game winning, especially if you have a Summoner's Pact that you're due to pay.
PuntThenWhine looking for answers for Hardened scales, and I have to imagine these are going to be in the line of control, and not hard control so much as I'm trying not to lose the game on turns, 3 or 4 before I'm set up.
Absolutely. So we saw a really, really slow hand from YamaKiller. I'm really surprised that he kept such a slow hand. It didn't really do anything. I mean, he had an 8/8 Walking Ballista. That would have been really good against more aggro deck, but not necessarily this. I think if he can just walk out of the gate with a Ravager and a Hardened Scales hand, oh, look at that hand.
That's real close to, I think, what we saw essentially roll out last game, a game that Punt won easily, and is up 1-0 here against YamaKiller. And YamaKiller with the same opening, this time, though, on the play, but just the Welding Jar in the tap land.
Yeah, that might not be good enough here. We have a double Amulet hand. If PuntThenWhine draws a Titan or an Azusa, this is representative of a turn 2 kill. That will stop it, though. That will stop a turn 2 kill.
So now the Damping Sphere is on board. What's Punt looking to put together now? Because this game has just gone from a potential devastating turn 3 combo outing to one that it seems is going to, if Punt wins, going to have to require him to come up with some specific answers.
Absolutely. His answer is already in his hand, though, with that Nature's Clam.
Yeah.
So you can see Punt choosing to copy that Lenore Reborn. And he's using it because it's a tap land, so he can actually use it right now to get rid of that Damping Sphere. Because you needed 2 mana, because it was the second line of text on Damping Sphere taxes your second spell. If he just played the Forest, he would have had to wait till his turn, till his opponent's turn to destroy the Damping Sphere.
Another angle for Amulet, helping him out. And now a second Damping Sphere, and this one may actually have the effect that YamaKiller wants.
Yes. So PuntThenWhine can Summoner's Pact, get Rex Sage, but that's just because the second line of text on Damping Sphere will make Summoner's Pact effectively cost 1 mana. So I don't see what he's just going to have to be patient here. Fortunately, YamaKiller kept a hand with a lot of interaction. I'm surprised here. I guess you kind of have to keep a double Damping Sphere hand against Amulet Titan, but his hand is just really slow. A triple Amulet here.
Yeah, we saw triple Amulet in game 1, and it ended up enabling him to win on 1 turn cycle because of it. But right now, if he plays the Summoner's Pact, I think he has to be worried that he can't pay for the cost coming back around, and he can't deploy the Azusa this turn either because of the dampening sphere.
Correct. Is that another one? Engineered explosives might be if Punt draws like a gemstone and an engineered explosives, that could do it on 2. Starrings can get one of those pieces. Oh, there we go. The EE. Still needs a second color.
This is going to be devastating if you're YamaKiller, because this represents all 3 of his dampening spheres, and we already know that Punt has the triple amulet on board that represents so much mana.
Absolutely.
Where can he get the second color from is what Punt's trying to figure out.
So he's got Gemstone. He doesn't have Bajuka Bog. That is in his sideboard. He did not bring that in. So he's kind of limited on options of what that second color can be. Teleria West and Gemstone Mines seem to be the best options for him to draw into.
See if he can put together those possibilities before Hardened Scales starts beating down. And once Hardened Scales sort of shifts from this, well, I'm going to deploy some hate pieces to I'm going to get aggressive, the draw to Hardened Scales is it could end the game so quickly.
Absolutely. Oh. We see an end step pact. Okay, so this is neat. To get the prime time, but that was just because he could do it then and he had nothing else to do with his mana. Unfortunately, this is not going to be able to give him too much. Did he forget about the damping sphere? I'm not sure.
Looks like he just wants to get the amulet going.
No. So
that'll stop colored mana, which will power up the EE.
Absolutely. And actually, because he's got the triple amulet in play, he can just pop the counter on the Coalition Relic, and on his turn, cast Titan, and even through the damping sphere, and grab Gemstone Mine Slayer Stronghold and still get enough mana to attack once. It's not a lethal attack, but that is something he could do. So he can either set himself up to blow up the damping sphere, or he can still swing with a pretty powerful Titan.
If he takes out both of the damping spheres for his opponent, that should free him up to maybe win the next turn at that point.
Mm-hmm. Looks like that's the line he's taking.
Still has the land drop for this turn, which does represent the Titan.
Absolutely. That'd be 2, 4, 6 mana. Swing with Titan, hold up Dismember, and that will be game. And he's still got that mana from the Coalition Relic. Not that he needs it. Yep. Yikes.
And that's going to be it. PuntThenWhine takes it down. A matchup that many Titan, Amulet Titan players maybe not fear, but would prefer not to play. Ends up going PuntThenWhine's way in big-time spectacular fashion. Back-to-back triple Amulet draws, powering up that win. Sean Seacrease along with the Saint Doom. And Saint Doom, when you look at all of the angles that we see from the different Titan Amulet decks, whether it's the integration of Karn, the Great Creator, whether it's the new land that allows you to play and leverage all of the different lands in the deck and turn out the zombies as another angle. This is a PuntThenWhine specialty where it's a little bit more mid-range. We've seen him use different mana generators at different points during the MSL, but we just saw the overwhelming power of the deck's namesake, Amulet and Titan pair up.
When you draw triple Amulet and you have a bounce land, it's like PuntThenWhine is an amazing Amulet player. But that was easy mode. That was triple Amulet is the easy mode where you just say, there's nothing you can do right now, opponent. I'm sorry. Do you have a Ghost Quarter? Because then I'll just if you have a Ghost Quarter exactly, you just wait. I'll just wait till I draw another bounce land. Like it's that overwhelmingly powerful. 49-49. We are deadlocked at this point through an unbelievable 98 matches here on the Modern Streamers League. 2 matches still to come. Visquis 87 on Urza Thopter coming up against GhostxEmpire on Oops Goblins for Team Ice. We'll watch that from GhostX's point of view. And then Matt Hurley, the TriHards 3 on his Esper delay against Cyrus
on another Amulet Titan deck. That's all still to come here this evening. We're going to bring back in Spider Space and Kappolo 42, Gabriel Maxon. Spider Space, you've seen him play for 10 weeks now in the Modern Streamers League. As somebody who loves fair magic, did you have a rooting interest in that matchup? I mean, as fun as it was to watch, you were looking at really two variations of combo decks go after each other. Team Ice coming away with the win.
I mean, I'm happy Team Ice won. I started Modern on an Affinity deck, and I also know Gall outside of this league, so I'm like, part of me is like, go YamaKiller, and then I'm like, oh wait, Ice needs to win.
Well, teams, Modern, Magic, it makes sometimes for strange bedfellows, but so glad that Team Ice could get that win as we're all on the edge of our seat to see who takes this down. Andrea, Team Fire, so far tonight, you've got Visquis, who has the most wins of anybody on Team Fire, still looking to put that 50th win on the board. And then you have really, let's be honest, the weak link in the Team Fire chain, and Matt Hurley coming up for you as well. So, like two different team members.
Shots fired.
He is a longtime friend of mine outside of Magic as well. So Matt's going to have to take that for me and at least smile about it publicly. He'll give me a lot of hell for it behind the scenes, I'm sure. But Andrea, you look at this matchup coming up next. Visquis 87 on Urza Thopter, a different style Urza deck than we just saw you pilot to a win in round one. What's going to be different about what we're about to see?
So Ryan's deck is more focused on the Thopter Foundry combo. Its deck is more weak to hate, but is definitely faster to win than my deck, since I have like 2 win conditions in the deck. But yeah, Ryan's deck is going to be faster, but it's easier to hate because Graveyard Hate stops it, and like Solid Silence stops it, where the Paradoxical Outcome deck is, as I said, less weak to the hate. Still, like, it's hurted by the hate, but not as much as the Thopter Foundry version. But the gaining life that my deck didn't have access to could be useful against an aggro deck as Goblins.
Yeah, that classic combination. You're going to look at Sword of the Meek, the ability to gain life. Will that be enough to hold off Goblins in the hands of GhostxEmpire? We'll find out next as the Modern Streamers League continues. We're all tied at 49. Which great charity is going to take this home? This is all being made possible because of our great sponsors here, Card Kingdom and Card Hoarder. We'll have more Modern Streamers League next.
Welcome back to the Forecast of Doom. I just want to pause for a moment. We are 49-49. That's all I want to say about that, because I just think that statement alone is unbelievable. We are 98 matches in and we are 49-49. That is just unreal how close this league has been. It just goes to show that how close Magic is when you have great competitors playing against each other, and how unbelievable close and just everything else this league has been. I'm almost speechless when I keep looking at that 49-49. But this matchup here, we have GhostxEmpire on all Goblins against VizQuiz on Urza Thopter. Normally, I'd favor the Ensnaring Bridge deck pretty heavily here against an aggro deck, especially with a Thopter Foundry combo, which can gain a ton of life. But have you guys seen GhostxEmpire's sideboard? This is a braid.deck. This entire deck is ways to beat Urza Thopter. We have Pithing Needle. We have Plague Engineer, which if naming Thopter can stop the combo. We have 4 Braids. We have Leyline of the Void, which again stops the combo because it's Graveyard Hate. We just have so many different cards which say destroy target artifact. I'm not even going to list all of them. My question here, and the big thing I'm curious about, is how GhostxEmpire is going to sideboard. Is GhostxEmpire going to... He can't bring all 15 cards in. He could. You can make an argument for it. So is he going to over sideboard is my only worry in this particular matchup. He has 15 good cards to bring in, but at his core, he's still an aggro deck. He still needs creatures. He still needs a swing. Is he going to keep a hand with 2 lands, a vial, and 3 Braids? Maybe, but that's not going to win him the game, despite how awesome that might feel, just shattering everything your opponent has. Ryan, VizQuiz, on his side of the table, he's going to look down the drop an early Ensnaring Bridge with some sort of protection, maybe like a welding jar. He's going to look to Galvanic Blast, key Goblins away, and he's going to look to get a Thopter Foundry combo going as fast as possible to gain him life and blockers to stop this aggressive aggro deck. That's the Forecast of Doom. I'm not really sure how this is going to go. Like I said, normally I'd favor the Urza deck, but how can you beat a braid deck? That's my forecast. Let's see how it all plays out.
This is round 4 of the final night of the Modern Streamers League. Sean Sacrease joined by Spider Space for round 4. Thank you for hanging out with us as we determine a winner after 10 hard-fought weeks. Spider Space, I got to go for the deck that has the names Frog Tosser, Crater Maker, Matron Ringleader, Trash Master, and Mob Boss, all in the same list. We're going to watch this play out from GhostxEmpire's perspective. His Goblin deck, this thing was a force in the early days of Legacy. We've seen it at times in Modern, and with the new card printings that it has, it's on the cusp of becoming a major format player as we watch this one begin. Is Goblins there yet in your mind?
There as in a tier 1 deck? Probably not, but it's definitely there in my heart.
GhostX going to be on the draw here in game 1. He's going to watch as Urza Thopter goes to work. Andrea explained the major difference between his deck and what we're going to see from Visquis87 here. And Ryan Visquis, he's going to have a deck that is more combo-oriented, and it's got quicker ways to kill. It also has the Thopter Sword combination. That can spell trouble for aggro decks.
It can. GhostxEmpire has main deck Trash Master. He actually even drew the main deck Trash Master there. So, I mean, they both kind of have answers. I think we just kind of have to see how it plays out here at game 1. I think post-board GhostxEmpire gets more favored, I want to say, with all those abrades and whatnot that Mike mentioned. But we have to see how exactly he manages to fit all of them.
We know GhostX listening to our commentary in real time as he highlighted the Trash Master when you brought it up there in his hand. Already starting to put together the pieces that are hopefully going to become an overwhelming train. GhostX showing off for us. Probably doing his best to try and keep pace with the animation that Noble Murloc has shown on camera over the weeks here on the Modern Streamers League. This deck for Visquis87, Urza Thopter, he's hoping to be really able to ignore his opponent for the first couple of turns and just set up what he wants to do. Goblin Engineer, Urza, and one side. The Goblin Engineer already on board for him. But this deck really comes together with the non-creature spells. Astrolabe has become nearly omnipresent in Modern at this point. Galvanic Blast, a couple Whir of Invention. We see the Wellspring, the Spellbomb, the Mox Opal for fast mana. We mentioned the sword combo. And then some one-of prison pieces with Ensnaring Bridge. You've got the Pithing Needle to play a little defense, Welding Jar, Pyrite, Spellbomb. These are all options, and you can play a deck of tutorable targets when you've got Whir of Invention in your package.
And Goblin Engineer.
Also handy to have.
I love that Ghost highlighted his opponent's Goblin with the thumbs down. It's like, get that traitor Goblin out of here.
Sure. We'll see how far that Goblin is able to take him. That Goblin Engineer for Visquis. We see the Wellspring drawing cards, replacing itself, adding to the board and giving the Goblin Engineer something to go to work on.
It is pretty good. I think the Siege Gang with Trash Master is going to be pretty great in terms of just shatter whatever I want, whenever I want it.
We'll see how GhostX elects to use this Tarfire. I'm wondering if he wants to let that Goblin Engineer go much longer on Visquis' side of the board.
I imagine not, if he can draw like another land. I think he does want to get down the Siege Gang, but we'll see how he elects to play it.
Siege Gang. I think he'd have to draw it. I think that's Ringleader in his hand there on the left.
The Siege Gang Lieutenant.
Okay, Siege Gang Lieutenant.
Wrong Siege Gang.
I'm thinking Commander. I'm thinking about making extra guys. You know, that would be just a great way to go if you could get there to 5. We were a long way away from that. And Siege Gang, not part of the Goblin package right now, at least Siege Gang Commander. Siege Gang Lieutenant in the deck as a one-of. Goblin Matron there as well.
This is a troublesome moment here for him. His opponent could just go infinite right now, and he's kind of just got to cross his fingers it doesn't happen.
We saw this KoDiamonds doing this very same thing against Urza deck in round 1 tonight. Mm-hmm. And now will this second iteration of Urza. We start to see at the end of the league some decks that are becoming popular. Urza certainly for Team Fire, 2 iterations of it tonight. We're going to see yet another version of Amulet Titan coming up later for Team Ice. So these are archetypes that these players are not just familiar with, but masters of as well. And we'll see them often here this evening on the last night of the Modern Streamers League for Season 1. It's the 4th land.
Tapped, though.
And that's unfortunate.
That's a huge deal here. That the amount that matters is tremendous.
And Ghost pulling on the beard, thinking about where to go.
So if that land had been untapped, Goblin Matron could have actually gone and gotten the goblin that would kill Urza, the munitions expert, as he would have 4 goblins in play and cost 2 for the ringleader and 2 for the munitions expert. But now it's not an option, so I don't even really know what he's supposed to do. He goes for the mana efficient play, but
Siege Gang Lieutenant.
more shatters.
Now, when does he just like to start leveraging those shatters, I think is the question.
I actually don't think he's going to point them at anything just yet. I think he wants to get rid of the Urza and the Goblin, and he's going to kind of just hold the Goblins in play until there's a good shatter target, because none of the cards in play, other than maybe the Construct, are good shatter targets.
This game rolling out just a little bit slower than I think Goblins would like it to. Not able to get that downhill momentum, as it were, as early as he'd want. That 4th land coming into play tapped, as Spider Space mentioned, holding back the ringleader another turn. Tarfire still hanging out in his hand as well.
And I like when he's deciding to shatter the Construct. It makes Visquiz decide if he wants to use the mana for the Urza now or exactly how he wants to play it.
Visquiz working his angles. What will he put together with this Urza Thopter combination? You see, Sai we've seen tonight. We've seen Ursa. Now we're going to see him go Whir of Invention. We're starting to see redundant pieces. And when it's the deck's namesake in Ursa, sure, you're going to see those kinds of things, but different strategies built around it. Much different than what we saw Kappolo 42 do in round 1 tonight. Just trying to highlight some of the differences, even though you're going to see Ursa Lord High Artificer be sort of the linchpin that some of these strategies revolve around.
I actually really don't understand Visquiz's line here. So presumably X equals 1 on Word of Invention is a pithing needle for the Trash Master. So Ghost has to respond, he blows stuff up. But why not just get the Thopter Foundry, right? Like, his opponent can shatter it, but he can just go respond and make infinite guys?
Gaining 1 life for each time as well. Not something that's just trash when you're taking on an aggro deck.
It's also worth noting that the Goblin Engineer can get back the Thopter Foundry.
Yes.
So Word of Invention on 1, very curious to me.
Plenty of targets. What will he elect to go do?
I think it's almost certainly Pithing Needle just for the Trash Master.
I would imagine at this point, jumping through these hoops, it would be logical, but we'll have to see where Visquiz thinks this game is going. And we may have to give Visquiz 87 a little bit more latitude than normal. He is an enormous Atlanta Braves fan, and he is completely just sweating this upcoming division series against my beloved St. Louis Cardinals. So much so that he was texting me, bad-mouthing an umpire about a fly rule from years ago. So, I mean, I looked it up. The right call was made. I don't know what Visquiz is upset about, but he's a young man with a lot on his mind all at once, and this deck can be difficult to play. So we'll see if he can stay focused through it.
He's worried about one team losing a match, so he might throw another here.
Yeah, we'll see. Team Fire really needs him to win this and make sure that it ends up at least even.
Yeah, that's. I'm go Goblins.
Spider Space, of course, part of Team Ice, has been all season long. What came out of this as we watch the final decisions being made for Visquiz 87 here on how he wants to deploy the last moments of this Whir of Invention?
You mean what came out of his word? Oh, that's why he did it.
And that's going to be enough here as he went and got the other half of the Foundry combo. And that is enough for GhostxEmpire to see and concede game one. Sean Secrease along with Spider Space as we watch GhostX go through his sideboard options here. Spider Space, what was one thing that happened on Team Ice that you were maybe not expecting to have happen when you got together for this Modern Streamers League? Is there a story you can tell us about the team deciding on decks or how to pursue strategy? What was one moment as Team Ice started to come together this season?
I would say one of the more interesting things was our team. We have an entire channel in our Discord for scouting. So everyone's trying to find out what Team Fire's doing, what's Team Fire gonna play. And then Team Ice just went and said, "Hey, I like this deck. I'm going to play this deck." It made it seem like we're doing some really in-depth metagaming, and then it's just, I'm just going to play what I'm going to play anyway.
I'm going to play what I know. That works out the best.
Just
so you mentioned when we talked about the sideboard options that this was really a braid deck. We see GhostX going for those types of plays with all the abrade there in the 2-drop column.
Mm-hmm. I'm really interested seeing him do this, seeing what he decides to put in and take out. Like, he took out the Goblin Crater Maker because it's sort of a limited abrade. You can't kill Thopter Foundry, which is the most important artifact to kill. With maybe the exception of abrade or Snaring Bridge.
Yeah, and Snaring Bridge is something that Goblins would have a hard time with because they are, for the most part, with this setup, going to win in the red zone.
Right. There's something they can do involving getting you low enough to finish you off with that Sling Gang Commander or Sling Gang Lieutenant, and or if you have the Legendary he's got in his hand there, the Mons, you can actually use both of those to deal 2 damage to your opponent with each Goblin.
They do have some reach outside of combat. This Goblin deck wants to bring to bear as much as it can in the red zone. One thing that we haven't seen so far for GhostX, and we're in game 2 after game 1 was taken by Visquis, is he hasn't had an Aether Vial draw yet. Goblins is one of those decks that really maximizes a card like Aether Vial.
It is, and he's not really able to use his mana efficiently here. He needed to draw a land that turn, and he didn't. And like you said, no Aether Vial. So now he's just kind of stuck being reactionary, which is not where you want to be.
Yeah, at least he does have the 2 abrades in hand. And that is going to be rough to watch because 1 abrade is not going to be enough to kill the Master Thopterist.
If he draws a land, the Plague Engineer will take those Thopters right off the board, at least.
Yeah, I have to imagine Cavern of Souls was set to Goblin. That's not the Plague Engineer. Down comes the Munitions Expert. This was an interesting ad for Goblins out of Modern Horizons in so much as it is Rakdos colored. I mean, it doesn't slot in to every Goblin deck because it requires black mana, and I feel like that's going to be kind of a restrictor plate on its potential.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It sort of is harder to cast off of Skirt Prospector, maybe means that you can't be a Blood Moon deck where maybe you would have been before. Ugh. Still no land, though this Goblin does kind of do things. It makes other Goblins cheaper.
The Frog Tosser Banneret, the one of cost producer for Goblins. And GhostX, it seems like he hasn't put together the pieces on the timeline that he would want to. We saw him miss the critical 4th untapped land in game 1, where he could have gone for something like Ringleader to try and build up his card advantage. Now he's playing cost producers turns behind because Goblins is choked a bit on mana. He plays 22 lands, but he just hasn't been able to find that critical 3rd one right now.
Yeah, these have been super, super crucial moments. I think if he drew a land there, he's very, very much in this game. And without the land, it's difficult.
Visquis 87 on his Urza Thopter list already with game 1 in hand, and he's looking to leverage Psy right now. I mean, I'm thinking Visquis probably needs to get in with these Thopters. He knows his opponent has answers available. Certainly, we see the Plague Engineer in hand, open deck lists, 2 in the sideboard. If I'm Visquis, I'm thinking my opponent's definitely bringing in Plague Engineers at this point because it's an easy name for Thopter to keep me from going wide. So I imagine it's time to make hay with these Thopters.
Absolutely. The Psy attack is kind of interesting. I guess it kind of respects like a bolt style plus combat damage kind of way to kill Psy. So maybe he just wouldn't lock with it anyway.
Cycling the Chromatic Star. Now the land. And GhostX just hoping for something off the top. A land, or maybe for Visquis to put a key artifact into play that he can respond with one of these 2 Abrades that he has sitting in his hand.
Yeah, the braids just look awkward here, don't they?
Yeah. There's a ringleader, but still no additional land. And that ringleader is a million miles away at this point, stuck on 2 lands. Yes, you've got the Frog Tosser to reduce the cost by 1, but how long are you going to have that in this situation?
Maybe he plays Matron? I'm not sure. His options are not stellar now.
Yeah. Do you have a target good enough to deserve one of the 2 Abrades, or do you want to just start building out your board? I mean, I think that's the 2 options in front of GhostX, since he missed a black source to allow him to shut down the Thopter making.
Mm-hmm. I think he's got to build up his board. The Abrade's just not doing anything.
And he's going to go for Matron here. What can GhostX find off of Goblin Matron?
I imagine it's another cost reducer, or maybe even a Skirk Prospector. I'm not sure which direction he'll go.
Prospector would be a way to sort of find that mana, force that mana, and it looks like it will be a Skirk Prospector. The only cost reducer in that line in the main deck. Prospector makes mana, of course.
It kind of does. You got to throw away some of those goblins to do it. But...
We'll see. Yeah, we know what you have in hand right now, Ghost. As we watch it, it's been a lot of painful moments for Team Ice, it seems, on the visuals this evening as we watch this Ultimate Week 10 in the Modern Streamers League from their point of view. Of course, Team Ice playing for the Cancer Research Institute, looking to bring to an end all forms of cancer worldwide, while Team Fire playing for A21, looking to end human trafficking around the globe. You can donate to either or both. They're both 2 great causes worth whatever you're able to contribute. That donate button just below us here during the Modern Streamers League.
I got it.
Now, joining the board for Visquis.
I think I was joking with Visquis early on that we were Smash Brothers because we were both playing Reality Smashers, but my heart's definitely with Ghost here. The Vile deck. He's whiffing on lands. It's Team Ice. It's the last week. It's just like, come on, please.
I think we just heard a confession. Spider Space lives his life sideways. You got to turn him sideways and get in the red zone. So if you see him tapping, you know that he's in his happy place. Another munitions expert for GhostxEmpire. That Vraska and her ability to leverage sort of repeatable abrupt decay style effects, that could be something that ultimately threatens some of the better goblins for Ghost.
And you see munitions expert actually take it out. That's a really nice sort of modern magic line of text on munitions expert, that it can target a planeswalker.
It took Wizards a while to come around to effects that specifically target planeswalkers, or to add that to specific cards, as they've decided where they want to go with planeswalkers and how they want them to be interacted with on board. I like the change.
I like that munitions expert has that bit of text. I think that makes sense to me.
16-7. Now, this is the situation where GhostX hit the concede last turn after the other half of the Thopter sword was put together. Thopter Foundry, the one missing in action right now. Sword of the Meek hits the board. Is this going to be the Foundry?
Just more value.
Just keeping that train rolling. GhostX nodding along. Watches as the Thopter Foundry, or the Sword of the Meek comes back attached to the Thopter.
It's pretty much black land or bust here. Oh.
And another Matron is not what he wanted to see. 22 lands in the deck, and he has been bottlenecked all night here in Game 2. Prospector is going to feel real bad if he wants to go for a 4-drop.
He still can't even cast the Engineer, which is the card he has to cast.
Yeah, the Skirk Prospector notably will only make red mana when you sack those goblins.
Appreciate Ghost just kind of looking away, just a moment of trying to keep himself composed.
Well, I think when you look back at the board in that situation, you hope it's changed. It's like when you're hungry and you look in the fridge and there's nothing there you want, close it and open the door again. You're hoping, well, maybe I didn't see that snack I wanted before. And GhostX just checking the board again to see still no black mana, unfortunately.
Maybe a nice prepared pizza will just appear in my fridge.
Maybe a nice hot burrito with all my favorite things on it will just be right there in the center when I open the door. You ever notice whenever you ask somebody, what would you, nobody ever says salad when you say, what would you, if you could have whatever you want when you open that door, nobody says salad.
There's people who would eat salad. Like if there's salad in there, they're going to eat it. And they're putting salad in there.
I want to see.
But yeah.
Chat, what do you want to see when you open that fridge door when you're wanting a snack or you're hungry? It's not salad. I mean, if you overwhelm me and tell me it's salad, then I will roll over. But I can't believe that's what people would want, being honest with themselves. Coming in, Visquis looking to put this game away. And right now, GhostX not only bottlenecked on mana long enough, but his life is under real assault here from Visquis, who's looking to win it sort of the old-fashioned way by just going wide with his flying Thopters. This will take staying out of the biggest one.
He's doing what he can.
Yeah. We'll bring down the one with the Sword of the Meek, the 2/3 flyer.
Playing to his outs.
And really, with that out being black mana, 4 Black Cleave Cliffs, 4 Auntie's Hovel, and those are the 8.
Yeah.
Enough mana to leverage Field of Ruin to go get a basic swamp, which he doesn't have in the deck. And that's it after the draw, and it was not enough on a short enough time scale to rescue GhostxEmpire. Visquis, 87, victorious. Urza, 2-0 on the night in the hands of Team Fire. We have the winner of one of those, Andrea Biaggi, with us here this evening. Andrea, you look at Urza, is it the new pillar of the format? We've seen it win now in 2 different shells tonight.
I think it's probably the best deck right now. I think you can build your deck to beat it, but you can still lose. Like as you saw with GhostxEmpire, I think his deck was beat to target Urza, but missing the land drops made him lose the game. But Urza is the best deck. Maybe Amulet Titan is close second, but yeah, those are the 2 decks that I think are the best decks right now.
I like how the 2 best decks are both very difficult to play. I think that's a nice draw to Modern when the 2 best decks are tough to play.
Do you say tough to play for someone inexperienced with that specific archetype, or just hard to pick up for Magic players overall?
A little bit of both. Amulet Titan and Urza both really reward lots of reps. They also have lines which a player who's not very adept at Magic might not see. So I think they're both decks that reward a skilled player, and they're also decks that reward mastering and putting the hours in to learn that specific archetype.
All
I
right.
agree with you,
Right.
but I feel like that Amulet Titan actually requires more practice, more reps than Urza. Sometimes Urza, you can like, even if you're not experienced, you can like get a lot of games out of it.
Mhm.
Not all of them. Instead, with Titan, you require more sequencing, more knowing your deck than Urza.
All right, these Saint Doom help us with a key real world question. If someone wants to pick up one of these decks, is one significantly more expensive if they're going to look at pricing out a deck from the ground up?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I said, if one of
if
decks
one's more expensive.
if someone wants to build it from the ground up, or are they similar when it comes to dollars to try and assemble?
The weird spot is neither of those decks really run a ton of cards that overlap. Modern used to have a lot of things that you could just get, like you could buy like a Windswept Heath, and you could use that playing Devoted Druid. You could use that, and then you could upgrade or build that into Abzan Midrange with Tarmogoyfs. There's almost nothing in Amulet Titan or Urza that you can say, I want to build a different deck. What do I already have? Oh, I have a bunch of Snow Islands and Astrolabes. I guess I'm still on Urza.
I just checked the prices, and Urza is a bit more than the double that Amulet Titan.
Double. Wow.
Yeah, it's like 1,500 against 700.
Is that online or in paper?
Paper. Online is 566 against 288. So yeah, more or less like the double.
You can buy them from Card Hoarder
or Card Kingdom.
And Card Kingdom.
What? Our supporters here on the Modern Streamers League. You want tech? This is what our two commentators and all three of our experts who are here with us tonight, Andre Biaggi, Gabriel Maxon, you know him as Kappolo 42, Spider Space, and of course, Mike Goldenberg, the Saint Zoom, agreeing. These are the two decks that are really right now front and center in Modern, whether it's Urza or Titan. These are the ones that are defining the format in some way. Coming up, we'll see another version of Titan, Amulet Titan, in the hands of Cyrus Corman-Gill. He recently took down a legacy GP with his beloved Storm archetype. Will he be able to take down Matt Hurley, the member of the TriHards, who's playing for Team Fire, and secure a 50-50 tie in Season 1 of the Modern Streamers League? Or will Team Fire and the entire charity donation of the league swing on the back of someone who was crazy enough to put delay in their Esper deck? We'll find all of that out, get the final answer to our 10-week puzzle. It's coming up next with the Forecast of Doom. This is the Modern Streamers League.
Welcome back to the Forecast of Doom. This is the last Forecast of Doom. I've done a lot of forecasts over the last 10 weeks. I can't believe this is going to be the last one. But good news, I get to talk about Amulet Titan. Cyrus Corman-Gill is playing Amulet Titan, probably my favorite deck, against Matt Hurley on Esper Delay, which is a brew that he made. Matt is known for creative, wacky, wild brews, and this one is no exception. We saw Amulet Titan earlier. I talked a little bit about then. I'm going to quickly highlight the differences in Cyrus's list. We have 4 Serum Visions, which are going to be able to make Cyrus more consistent at what he's trying to do. Main board, Cyrus has 2 Engineered Explosives. Sorry, 1 Engineered Explosives. In the sideboard, he's got 2 Engineered Explosives, 3 Path Exiles, a Field of the Dead, and a Hornet Queen to attack this mid-range matchup. He's really just looking to be super consistent with those Serum Visions game 1. The real spice here is on Matt's side of the table. For those who aren't aware, Teferi Time Cop with Spell Queller means if you kill Spell Queller, you don't get your card back. Teferi Time Cop with Delay means when you have a suspend card come off suspend, you don't actually get to cast it. The same is also true with Lavinia, which is a card we'll be putting into the chat in a short little bit. Lavinia says if you cast a spell for 0 mana, you don't get that spell. Or if you cast a spell and its converted mana cost is higher than the number of lands you have, you don't get to cast that. Which means there's a lot of different ways that one taxer is attacking Amulet Titan. At first, I was looking at this TriHards list as kind of like a mid-range tempo deck, but I think I was wrong when I first started looking at that. I think this is a taxes deck that has a unique angle of attack. He's looking to wipe the board with the Wasteland Stranglers and keep you clear and punish you with Tidehollow Sculler, Spell Queller, Lavinia, Delay, and Teferi Time Cop until he can eventually win with some sort of Stoneforge Mystic package. Now, the way I see Matt winning this matchup, which I do not think he's favored in at all, is if he gets some sort of combination of those tax elements and they line up well against Cyrus. Now, game 1, I'm heavily favoring the Amulet Titan player. Post-board, however, Matt does have access to a pair of Thoughtseize and a pair of the dreaded Ashiok. Now, any Amulet Titan player knows that Ashiok coming down to the table means you're not searching through your deck, you're not finding those answers, you're getting no value off of prime time. So that is a key card in the post board. Really, Matt is going to have to be fast and have to be interactive. And Cyrus is just going to have a consistent hand, an average Amulet hand, and play Titans and Smash. That's the Forecast of Doom. I'm really excited to see how this plays out. If Cyrus wins, we tie. If Matt wins, Team Fire takes everything. Let's see how it all plays out.
For the final time in Season 1 of the Modern Streamers League, I'm Sean Seacrease, joined this round by Kappolo 42. You saw him with a win in round 1 tonight. Andrea Biaggi. Andrea, this one should be fun. One of the 2 top dogs in Modern against an Esper brew that looks to take the format by an entirely different angle. We're going to see this one from Cyrus Corman-Gill's angle. He's on Amulet Titan, and he's already opening on a quick hand with Secure a Tribe Scout as he looks to get off to the races earlier. This deck looks like it's a little more insulated against aggro. We see him with the Grazer already in hand. He's got a Walking Ballista to use. This version of it really looks like it plays a big all-around game.
Yes, but I feel like it's maybe not as ready as against weird counter spells like Matt is playing. I don't know how familiar Cyrus are with some of the cards interaction. Could be like really tricky to play against the deck.
Path to Exile coming down to take out the Secure Tribe Scout. Ramping the ramp deck is always a dangerous proposition. Cyrus looking at what his options are here. A Boreal Grazer going to come down. That's going to allow him to look at his hand for another land, a bounce land going to come down, and Cyrus Corman-Gill. Oh, no, not. I'm sorry, that wasn't a bounce land. He's going to have the 3 lands in play after the Arboreal Grazer comes down, and he looks to be setting up a turn where Azusa can power up. If he draws another land next turn, that's going to give him an opportunity to use his packs, and things seem to be looking up so far for Titan. That Judge is familiar. That's going to be able to tax something and may take him off of his curve.
Yes, but Engineering Explosive was a good draw. You get rid of the Vial. There's a key piece on Matt deck, and also the Judge's Familiar that probably would have taxed the Summoner's Pact.
And if you're Matt Hurley, who plays under the TriHards 3, this is not a draw you wanted to see, because this Engineered Explosives is threatening to take down, 1, your tempo play, and 2, the outlet that lets you play around using your mana to deploy your threats so you can hold them up for your counter spells, for your delays, for your instant interaction. Cyrus, we got a reader on Judge's Familiar, although I'm not going to punish you for that. How many people remember the uncommon?
I do remember. I think Cyrus is familiar with it. Maybe just wanted to highlight it for us to have an idea what the card does.
Arboreal Grazer with reach, so that's going to cut off the aggressive angle for Judge's Familiar. Oh, the test. Is he really idiot testing Cyrus Corman-Gill, the GP Atlanta champion?
Or maybe TriHards didn't know that Arboreal Grazer had reach.
You hit that one on the head. I can tell you that. That's.
I don't know how much like TriHards is familiar with Standard, because you don't see that card that often in Modern, besides in the new builds of Amulet. But it's a card that was like key piece in the Escape Shift deck or the Golos decks right now in Standard.
Field of Ruin coming down. So we'll see how this Esper Delay deck, which Esper Delay, not a good enough name. How about Delayed Gratification? I think that's what you're going to be looking at if you're the Esper control player against the Amulet Titan deck. Ancient Stirrings looking to set up Cyrus.
Yeah, the bounce land is pretty good. You can play Azusa, play bounce land, replay like some of the lands, like maybe reset a Gemstone Cavern, and next turn there is enough mana for Pact and Titan.
And Andre, I think you hit on something interesting. He was careful to respect his mana curve because he knew Azusa was coming down. Many people might have thought the knee-jerk reaction was to get the amulet that he had available to him.
Yeah, I was kind of not sure why he got Azusa and the land instead of the amulet, but Cyrus he knows that his deck way better than I do, so I don't question his lines.
Cyrus Corman-Gill from Team Ice needs the win to tie. Team Fire's up 50 matches to 49 after 99 matches in the Modern Streamers League have been completed. Week 10, match 10. Thanks again to our friend Flying Delver over at greatnessatanycost.com. He's been breaking down each upcoming week of the MSL, giving you deck lists, individual match breakdown prognostication. He's been a great additional feature to our ModernStreamersLeague.com coverage, where you can meet all the players, see their deck lists, follow along, get our times, dates, and matchup each week. And you can keep your eye on ModernStreamersLeague.com for future announcements. That's all I'm going to say. We'll let the league founder talk about that after we wrap up our final match here in Season 1 with Cyrus Corman-Gill and Matt Hurley. Now, Primeval Titan coming down. Delay comes off the stack, and you see the smile from open deck lists. He knew it was a possibility, and he played into the delay.
Yeah, I don't think... I mean, delay is going to be good if Matt can find either Teferi or Lavinia. Otherwise, without any pressure, like waiting 3 turns for Titan is not going to be an issue for Cyrus.
Yeah, Wasteland Strangler, I believe, lets him eat a spell that's in exile.
Okay.
So it gives him another way to eat up that Titan while it's on suspend, so to speak. Team Fire and Matt Hurley looking. He tapped the blue. He's going to get Lavinia flashed in. Now,
and
Comes down
Stops
to
also Summoner Pack too.
So no more with Lavinia. Yeah, that's going to be a big, big moment. One of the things that she cuts off is Lavinia says that you can't play non-creature spells that cost more than the number of lands you have in play. Not an issue right now for Amulet Titan with the 6 lands in play. That's going to let Cyrus continue to play as he sees fit.
Yes, but you can also not cast spells for free.
Correct.
So you cannot cast Summoner's Pact, you cannot cast Pact of Negation. So I think Cyrus is in a a lot of trouble here. I mean, the clock is not that big right now, but the disruption is there. And like Cyrus is sad that
stays in play. Those packs might as well just be blank cards. And now Tide Hollow Sculler, an old piece of Dead Guy Ale technology, comes down and takes one of those 2 blanks.
And Cyrus pointed at Engineer Explosive and made a sad face, probably regretting sacrificing Explosive to get rid of the Aether Vial and the Judge's Familiar now that 2 bigger and more annoying threats are on the board.
Not exactly an intimidating clock for Matt Hurley and Team Fire at 4 a turn. And it's especially awkward because Cyrus, he has more life than a multiple of 4. So this is still a 4-turn clock, which gives him 4 looks at the top of the deck and a Primeval Titan that's getting close to coming off suspend. But that Lavinia is going to have something to say about that, and she shuts that down.
I think Cyrus' out is to draw Primeval Titan naturally, or Tolaria West and transmute for the Titan.
Spell Queller comes down and eats up that quick look. Aether Vial ticks up to 3. These are all outs that Cyrus trying to find. That Serum Visions wasn't able to help him. This, again, a little bit of an odd numbering situation as 6, the threat for TriHards and Team Fire. It's still a 2-turn clock, the 2 off the fountain, going to put Cyrus back to 10. Cyrus has one more look at it right now, Andrea.
Yes, and Titan doesn't even do it that well. Just because you still have the 2 damage coming in the air, and you can attack with everyone and kill. And the game is
going to
over.
do it. And game 1 is going to go to delayed gratification. Matt Hurley for Team Fire is now 1 game win away from taking this down for Team Fire.
Let's go, Matt.
This is still an opportunity for Cyrus Corman-Gill and the powerful Amulet Titan deck to now be on the play. Looking at the sideboard, where do you see Cyrus going?
I like the Hornet Queen here, the Feet of the Dead, just because you don't care about if your opponent has counter spells. You just create 2/2s every turn. Explosive, we saw that if he drew it was pretty good. I'm not sure about the Force of Vigor, but maybe he sees something. Daedalus Color is an artifact, so he can probably kill that. But I feel like Hornet Queen is really good in this matchup.
We mentioned on the other side for Matt Hurley and this Esper delay, 2 Thoughtseize for sure, 2 Ashiok Dreamrender. And I can tell you, as someone who's been longtime friends with Matt, longtime technology developer with him, ever since that Ashiok Dreamrender came out in Theros block, it has been a pet card of his, and he tries to use it at nearly every reasonable and unreasonable opportunity. And it's certainly more reasonable than unreasonable in this current 75 that he has. I can be 100% certain he's bringing in both copies of Ashiok here at this point.
I agree with you. Also, it's kind of curious that Cyrus is going for a longer game. He cut all of his Amulet, and also he cut some of his card selection. He kept only 2 Serum Visions in. I don't know if he expects to play a longer game. This send doesn't look good. Okay, this is way better.
Going to 6, probably going to throw back either the Path or a land, and he'll throw back the Path on the play. Look for the Secure Tribe Scout. This is where he started in game 1, and it was immediately answered with a Path to Exile.
Yes, Tribe Scout can be really good if it allows you to get a lot of mana early in go off on turn 3. I don't know if you can go off on turn 2. I'm not expert with the deck.
Judge's Familiar comes down. That's the taxing effect, should it be sacrificed. 1/1 flyer, looking to just disrupt tempo on the other side of the board. Cyrus Corman-Gill, where does he want to go to develop? He's really, I don't want to say stuck in the development stage, but with 3 lands and a pact in hand, he's looking for something off the top of the deck that's going to let him start to bring that pressure.
Yes, but since he doesn't have Amulet, probably the best draw is some bounce lands to develop the mana a bit faster with Sakura Tribe Scout.
Tidehollow Sculler going to come down, take the action.
Get the pact.
Yeah, available. And the only one is packed. Activate the Scout or no for Cyrus.
Definitely activate Scout, probably for, Colony Garden. Just because it enters tapped no matter what, so you just
the Judge's Familiar, pecking in. Colony Heart Garden coming in. It'll make the plant token. Teleria West.
Could get another pact.
That's an interesting draw for Cyrus.
And if Cyrus draws another land, could cast Titan next turn.
West. Gonna go get, I imagine,
Ballista.
You mentioned. Instead, he's gonna go for Walking Ballista and try to shoot down these 2 threats on the other side of the board. This really is a play that makes me think he's setting up for a controlling game, Andrea.
Yes, but I don't know, if controlling the control deck is the best strategy. But it's more it's a control deck that is with hate bears, as we mentioned before in the stream. So that's probably why he went with Ballista, to kill the hate bears and disrupt some of the control. Mm-hmm. Also, Ballista could take down the Teferi later in the game.
Cyrus looking at
this is good.
Wrangler coming down now. We mentioned this as something that combos with spells that are delayed, but he's going to be able to target that Walking Ballista and force Cyrus to use it right now. And it's just a 1/1, I believe.
Yes. And also, I think you still want to process the... I don't know if you can still process the pact underneath the Scholar, but I think you want to be safe and just have that go into the graveyard. So I'm not sure how the interaction works.
Yeah, the fact that it wasn't processed, didn't have the option just yet. The plant token will jump in front of the Tidehollow Sculler. And Cyrus, nothing really to do with that plant token other than preserve his life total. And another land. Cyrus empty-handed now. And
but with 6 lands.
And for Matt.
So enough mana for Titan, but if Matt has some counter spells, especially Delay or Spell Queller, could really help. Of course, Spell Queller doesn't stop the Titan, but stops the Pact for the Titan, stops the Serum Visions, stops probably the Explosives for 2.
Lavinia comes down, further tightening the possibilities for Cyrus. And Andrea, the best draw for Cyrus right now is where we were in game 1, which is just a raw Primeval Titan off the top.
Yes. But this time Matt tapped out, so it gives the opportunity to at least cast the Serum Vision to set up for a Titan. But yeah, the outs are not many for Cyrus right now.
And now you see this in Hate Bear style decks where the individual numbers on the creatures aren't that impressive, but you add another Hate Bear to the board and another one. This attack is potentially for 5. Next turn, he has an attack potentially for 9. Now you're starting to shut down the possible draw steps that Cyrus has.
This is an interesting attack because it can activate the Slayer Stronghold. Or
this might be a misstep from the attacker, from Matt He's going to take down the 3-2, look to preserve his life total because the pack no good with Lavinia on board.
Correct. And I think Hornet Queen is 1 more mana. I think 7 mana, so you need 1 more land for that.
Another bounce land into the hand for Cyrus Corman-Gill.
So I'm not sure about bouncing the garden. For sure it buys you like 2 less extra damage, but now Hornet Queen is not out if he draws it.
Yeah, Hornet Queen, we saw Cyrus Corman-Gill bring it in from the sideboard. In and of itself, being a 2-2 flyer isn't the important part. It's the death-touching Hornets that it makes. Now Stoneforge Mystic comes down, and what will Matt Hurley, playing as the TriHards 3 for Team Fire, elect to go get? He's got sort of Feast and Famine in the deck. That would give him protection from Titans and from plant tokens.
That's a really good draw. Explosives
Yes.
can kill 4 creatures.
They're all 2-2s. This is a weak point for the Esper delay deck.
Hoping that Matt doesn't have a delay or a spell queller in hand, but you have to go for it. I mean, he could overpay for spell queller, tap in the stronghold and like 2 extra green. So
Yeah,
explosive is going to be for 5.
I wonder if that's what we're going to see here. That would play. He knows delay is going to be an issue no matter what, but he can play at least around spell queller.
And that looks like what he's doing.
Cyrus Corman-Gill looking for a way to get back in this game. The activation cost on Engineered Explosive won't be interacted with if it hits the board. So if Matt Hurley can stop it now for Team Fire, he would have. Instead, I believe we're going to see that side of the board entirely wiped out.
Yes, leaving Matt with a Batterskull in hand. But Batterskull is not that impressive against Titan. Titan is bigger.
Cyrus Corman-Gill won't take any chances. Explodes the explosives right now. A fetch off the Flooded Strand. And what is coming now? So many opportunities in this Esper delay deck to sort of mess with the timing of your opponent. Nothing had that time for Matt Hurley and Team Fire. And so the Summoner's Pack goes back to hand. No Lavinia to cut it off now. And now Matt Hurley knows, Kite Sail Freebooter, that's a one of in the deck. Comes down and Cyrus shakes the head again. This has almost the feel of a humans deck to it right now.
Yeah, and when they have the one-offs, they always draw the one-offs.
Fun-ubs in effect right now. And another land off the top for Cyrus. Now, lands. Most player, I got flooded. Well, this is one of the aspects of Amulet Titan. You play 28 lands because so many of your lands are part of your toolbox effects. So you get, we've seen already, Slayer Stronghold come into play in this game. And that's a big Ashiok coming down for Matt Hurley.
Stopping the Pact again.
That can also leverage its abilities to look at the graveyard, even though Amulet Titan doesn't look too much at the graveyard. This version doesn't use Karn.
Yeah, also, chat is pointing out that twice Cyrus could have cast the Pact in response to the Freebooter and something else, but it was probably F6 and missed the chance to cast the Pact because Freebooter cannot take the Titan, it's only non-creature spells. So what's 5 mana Batterskull? So still on out to play the Titan, but Batterskull's gonna get equipped to the Freebooter if Titan comes into play. But it's good. It's probably gonna wait to cast it until attack step, just because otherwise the re-equip of Batterskull.
Yeah, delay the mana the extra turn. The ability to pick up Batterskull and put it down in the same turn comes with
no.
available.
Never mind.
He's going to go for the Freebooter.
Yes, because you can get Pact and then get the Titan. No, I cannot get the Titan.
No, Ashiok's going to prevent that. Cyrus double-checking the line. Yes, spells and effects your opponent's control can't search their library.
So I don't know what's the out here. I mean, it stopped the flying Butterskull, so the County Garden can help for a bit, just blocking and...
Thoughtseize coming. And this is something that's been interesting. Matt has had on turn relevant plays to keep Cyrus's hand empty of anything but lands.
Yep. I mean, this deck surprisingly is good right now. When I saw the list, it's like, it was like interesting, but just like for fun. But I've been impressed by the deck list, so I might have to try it out myself.
And you can do that if you check out Card Hoarder or Card Kingdom, our sponsors here on the Modern Streamers League. I'm sure somebody who goes through as many deck ideas and testing as Andrea certainly has access to all the cards he needs. If you need to, too, check them out for your latest modern tech.
I need the cards too. Like lately, like a lot of like the staples have got expensive, so I actually have to rent them instead of buying them. Unless I get lucky, like I open Red and 6 and Force of Negation in a pre-release on Magic Online.
You're mana rich right now. You're cardboard rich, Magic rich, Ren and 6, and Pact of Negation. That's two big time staples in mine. Ren and 6 become a staple in every format I think you can play Ren and 6 in. So that's been a big pickup. Spell Queller coming down empty, just looking to up the tempo here. This is going to be an attack for 6. That would put Cyrus down to 3. I believe he was at 9. We lost the feed just momentarily.
Yes.
And no, that is going to do it. The St. Doom's shaking his head and saying that's it. Cyrus Corman-Gill couldn't find the answer. Team Fire is going to take it down, and we're going to have to listen to
update.
Matt Hurley talk about how he won the Modern Streamers League with Esper delayed gratification until the end of time at this point. As someone who was a podcast member with Matt for 3 years, I can tell you that's how this is going to go. Congratulations to Matt. Congratulations to Team Fire on the win. That means that the funds raised are going to go to A21, an organization that looks to end human trafficking worldwide, an amazing charitable organization who does work all over the globe, picked and supported by Team Fire in this season 1 of the Modern Streamers League. Andrea Kappolo 42 as the representative of Team Fire, who is here with us for the Modern Streamers League. You may graciously accept this virtual bouquet and the victory for Team Fire.
I have some flowers here.
It's almost like we planned that out while everyone was off the cast this evening.
Crown.
What would you like to say on behalf of Team Fire? It was 10 hard weeks, and you won by the mathematical minimum of 2 matches, 51-49. Give us quick acceptance speech for Team Fire.
It was really crazy. All this league was like always close, like lots of good players, and it was awesome to had the chance to play with and against a lot of these great players. The collaboration, the friendship that actually we built was great. I met a lot of the guys at GP Atlanta. We hang out. It was really awesome. I think this league, thanks Mike for organizing the league, was an amazing experience, and I'm like so happy that I had to participate in it and meet a lot of cool people.
It was so much fun all the way around. All 20 of our Modern Streamers League players were unbelievable players throughout this run. The Saint Doom, the godfather of the league. All right, before we congratulate you on putting together this brainchild, I have to ask, does that 10-0 feel a little hollow after the team went down?
So it reminds me, I'm a huge Patriots fan. I live in Massachusetts. It reminds me of when the Patriots win 18-1. Like, that's what it feels like a little bit. Like, oh, I went 10-0, but my team lost by 1.
Win by TriHards there at the end was kind of like the one-handed helmet catch.
The David Tyree catch.
That submarine that season. So I think that's a great point by you to say how hollow that kind of feels at the end, and the unlikeliest of heroes for Team Fire
Against
rising
Cyrus
in victory.
Corman-Gill, the guy
Yes.
who just took down a GP. Wow, man. Wow, way to pull a David Tyree. We got to check your gloves. Make sure we got to check your helmet. Make sure there's no glue on it there. We gotta inspect this up because. But either way, congratulations, Team Fire. Your charity is excellent. Your team is excellent. Clearly, the better team. 1% better.
Margins. You mentioned that this was being played for charity. Ultimately, Team Ice played for Cancer Research Institute. Team Fire, of course, for A21. Can you give us an idea at this point what that winner's contribution to their charity is going to be?
Still counting it up. It's in the hundreds. Not as high as I would like to have been. We are still accepting donations, or you can still donate directly to the charities themselves at the links right below. So within the next week, I'll be counting it up. Because any subs, because I know Kappolo's gifted 20 subs, so that sub money goes directly to the winning team, Team Fire's charity. Now, I do have a question for you, Andrea. So you said week 1 that these teams, that this league was rigged. Do you stand by that statement now that your team just won the miracle week?
I mean, we also had like bad matchups this week, so we got pretty lucky. But I still feel it's rigged. I don't know. I've discussed with you plenty of times. Just looking at the names, I felt like bigger names, like slightly bigger name were on Team Ice, but not by much.
That didn't help Cyrus Corman-Gill in that last matchup. I can tell you that right now. After we watch it go down, he went down to Matt Hurley, plays under the name The TriHards 3. He would love to share that deck knowledge with you if you want to find out anything about Esper Delay. He would love to tell you about that creation of his that he just took down Atlanta GP champ Cyrus Corman-Gill with to win the Modern Streamers League for Team Fire. Spider Space has been hanging out with us all night as well. What do you think was contributed to Modern over these 10 weeks of the Modern Streamers League? There was some pushing tech. There was some use of reliable tech. We saw the coming and going of Hogak in the middle of this league. What do you think was added to the Modern conversation throughout this 10 weeks?
I mean, you got to see a whole variety of decks. You got to see the best players on these decks. I mean, if you want to find the best Amulet content, we had it. Whatever direction you wanted to go, you saw the best people doing it. You saw it right before your eyes. I mean, we already knew that going in. I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
It was an amazing journey, one that wouldn't have been possible if someone didn't take a moment and think to themselves, I'd like to see some more Modern, and I'd like it in an interactive, entertaining way, and it's not out there. I'm going to do the hard work, over a year's worth of work to create the content that I want to see. The man who had that brainchild was the Saint Doom. He has been the progenitor of this league. He's been the one who's organized the work behind the scenes. Certainly Manbat, who's done his share of work. Ian Catt, who has contributed to music. There have been so many other behind the scenes contributors to the league, but it doesn't get started without the Saint Doom. Was it everything you wanted it to be? And can we look forward to another season of the MSL down the road?
For starters, I want to give shout outs to Chris Manbat, co-founder, vital, made the website, made all the overlays, made the forecast, huge contributor, the co-founder of the MSL. I want to thank Flying Delver. Check out his website, Greatness at Any Cost, been giving us constant content, previews, reviews every single week. I want to thank every single player who's been involved. I want to thank you, Sean, and I want to thank our group of mods, which has been headlined by Foxmitten. Thank you for staying up late, especially at Foxmitten. It's like you live in England, it's like 4 a.m. or something ridiculous there. So thank you very much, everybody. It's been a huge community. It's definitely people I'm missing that have all worked together to make this league possible. So future, that was your question, Sean, about the future. As of right now, everything is lined up, stars have aligned. We have the green light, we have the go-ahead for future leagues of the Modern Streamers League. That will be coming up. We will be working on that. Dates, times, who's in it, what's going on, what's the format going to be? Well, it's going to be modern. Is it going to be a league? Is it going to be a tournament? Is it going to be a league like this with teams? All those details to come shortly. Check out ModernStreamersLeague.com. That's where all the updates will be on, and we can keep you posted there.
Thanks again to Card Hoarder and Card Kingdom, our sponsors who help make this Modern Streamers League happen in its first season. And thanks especially to you for taking the time, tuning in, interacting with us in the chat, lending your voice to the Modern Streamers League. We couldn't have done it without you, and frankly, it wouldn't have been as much fun if we weren't doing it for you. For Saint Doom, for Spider Space, for Kappolo 42, for everyone who joined us on commentary and analysis this season, a special thank you from me. We hope to see you next time for the next iteration of the Modern Streamers League. Until then, may all your draws be live. I'm Sean Seacrease. Thanks for joining us for the Modern Streamers League.